Chapter 61 Injury After Injury Reindeer Chopper. Unfamiliar ceiling. When Roman opened his eyes, he first sighed like this, then turned his head to look. This is a single room. Roman is currently lying on the bed, next to a bookshelf full of books, and a fireplace on the wall, but there is no fire. A pile of medical equipment, bandages, gauze, etc. Well, it's land. It seems Nami is safe. If you ask what Roman knows that this is land, the bed that doesn't move under him is the best proof. The boat is always rocking, and it even makes the human body accustomed to it. Therefore, many sailors are staggered when they first disembark the boat, that is, the body is used to the bumps, and they will sway from side to side with their feet on the ground. Remember before the coma. Roman closed his eyes and seriously recalled the feeling of his sight in the next instant. Others were lying on the bed with their eyes closed, but they saw everything around them. This is. Suppressing his inner excitement, Roman controlled this novel vision to look left and right, not with the experience of paper cranes, but with a vision that can be zoomed in and out at will. Although it is obviously not as clear as the eyes of the flesh, it still makes Roman reigns overjoyed. Posted. Observation hockey. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that. I finally opened up once. Not only did I successfully find the drum country, but I also opened observation hockey by the way. Ha 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 ha. From the new group. Cough cough, reserved. Pay attention to the management of expressions, how to say it is also a dignified traveler, representing the faces of billions of people on the earth. So, let me see the other rooms. Roman turned his consciousness and passed the wall to see the empty room next door. All the way through, passing through the wall, I soon came to a warm room with a girl sitting on the bed. It's Nami. Even if Roman's current ability can't make the image very clear, the familiar aura and body shape will not be mistaken. As Roman threw the observation hockey he just mastered into Nami, he immediately penetrated the quilt, clothes, and then cough. Mr. Lu Xuan said, see no evil. My mother also said, the president will grow the eye of the needle. But the one next to her is. What? My eyes. Roman, who was still in high spirits experimenting with new abilities, froze, as if someone had thrown a flashbang from Zongman. If Nami's flame of life was candlelight in his eyes, the figure next to him was a 500-watt bulb, which almost blinded Roman's eyes. This is the drum country, right? This is where choppers are recruited, right? Then this stranger should be Chopper's mistress. What is it called? Roman rubbed his eyes that had just been shaken, but remembered that the other party kept insisting that he was not 150 years old, and he hung up calmly throughout the Wapple dungeon. Now Roman accidentally discovered that he was a super expert. The masters who are less than 150 years old are extremely afraid of thinking carefully. Counting the time, it might not be someone on the Nox ship. If you accidentally smashed it by yourself, it shouldn't kill you or something, right? Probably not. Should. On the other side, Nami, who was negotiating with an old woman dressed in avant-garde, was actually a doctor named Drive. Kurha. Nami, who was trying to discharge earlier, trembled, as if something had licked her skin. Just now. Nami, who was holding her arms, looked left and right in confusion, not sure if she was hallucinating from a serious illness. But, that familiar feeling just now is. Hee. Dr. Kurha, who was leaning against the door to prevent Nami from leaving, glanced at the direction of Roman's room secretly, and asked Nami casually. The boy who was brought up with you, that black-haired guy with a dead face and a bitter face, who is he? This. Rao was as smart as Nami, and didn't react for a while. But. Is it Roman? Oh, tell me about this little guy named Roman. Life has no meaning. Roman, who was lying on the bed, rubbed his stinging eyes. He had just mentioned observation hockey, but he almost blinded a dog just by looking at it. Tears flowed down at that time, can this pirate world still be fun to play? How to live to be able to. Wait a minute. After realizing it, Roman put his palm in front of his eyes, not the familiar, paper, but a real medical bandage. Well, it's been a long time since I saw real medical supplies. Speaking of which, Roman lifted the quilt on his body, revealing the following. Give me a big blade, can I go to cosplay and stop cutting? Roman is now covered with bandages all over his body, like a mummy, and like a severe secondary illness. And with the movement of his getting up, ribs, arms, thighs, there were stabbing pains deep into the bone marrow from several places, which made Roman frown. No, isn't the reason for my coma overuse of the fruit power. This kind of damage is fed back to the body. It is understandable that the 7 orifices bleed, the blood oozes like pulp, and the lifespan is severely damaged. But this stinging bone fracture, muscle strain, and scaly skin damage. How does it feel to be dragged? Help. Meat, stop, meat. Wait a minute, Luffy. Let me come. A strange and shrill cry was mixed with the familiar voices of Luffy and Sanji. What a big piece of venison. Just to make up for Miss Nami. What are these two guys doing? And Sanji, you used to be a very reliable person, how could you be assimilated by Luffy? Bang. Snapped. Just when Roman had a headache, the door of the room he was in was suddenly opened, and a furry guy ran in, then quickly turned around and closed the door, panting and in shock. Who, what a terrible human. This is a reindeer that can speak and stand upright. Wearing a pink hat and brown shorts. Just after being chased by Luffy and Sanji, Mao was frightened and fluffed into a ball. It seems to have left. The sound of footsteps outside the door was gone, making the furry little guy sit down against the door with a sigh of relief, and then his eyes met with Roman on the bed. Cough, hello. Brush. The little reindeer, who suddenly turned over and climbed up, rushed towards the bookshelf next to him, hiding half of his head behind the bookshelf, exposing his entire body. A cautious look of, observing in secret, made Roman complain. Could this be the legendary, Head and Tail? I've known you for a long time. Your injury. Ah, my injury is fine. Roman nodded kindly to the other party, no one will have a hard time with the doctor. Did you help me with the dressing? Thanks. Man, how could a human being thank me, idiot? The wriggling little reindeer showed a happy expression of what is different from the heart. Even if you thanked me, I wouldn't be happy. Idiot. That's right, it's definitely the chopper this deer. But. Hello, my name is Roman. Tokovic, Roman. Facing Roman's outstretched hand, Chopper, who was hiding behind the bookshelf, stared at him dumbfounded. You're not afraid of me? Afraid? Roman touched his chin and asked back. Are you my enemy? No. Then are you stronger than me? No. Then it's over. Roman spread his hands. You are neither my enemy nor stronger than I imagined. Why should I be afraid of you? But I'm the blue-nosed reindeer. Everyone else is afraid of me, calling me a savage, a monster. Facing the stammering words of the other party, Roman waved his hand indifferently. That's because they have little knowledge. That's how human beings are, fear because of the unknown, hate because of fear, and destroy because of hatred. Then fear is born out of destruction. It's not unreasonable that the 3 big pineapple brothers can suppress the other demons. But a lot of things are completely unsurprising if you know them. Slam, la. Roman opened his palm, and blank sheets of paper flew out to form a fist, out of thin air. It's just a devil fruit, although it may be a rarity that ordinary people have never seen in their life. But on the sea outside, the fruit-powered ones are like crucian carp crossing the river. Especially the New World, in the second half of the Great Route, it is even more fruit-powered. People walk all over the place. Ordinary hockey is not as good as a dog, only Conqueror can shake 3 times. Speaking of the paper hand that Roman controlled the air, he pointed to the little reindeer. In the New World, there is a country called Zo, where a large number of people like you live. They call themselves fur tribes, walk upright, speak and think. Like some rabbit girl, fox royal sister, goat doctor, leopard swordsman, etc. You are no different from them. The paper hands in midair spread out their palms. Of course, they were born, and you ate the devil fruit. Roman's remarks made the little reindeer's eyes sparkle brightly. He looked at Roman with admiration, hoping to hear more fresh things from the other party, especially. The other party didn't care about his appearance and race at all, but regarded him as an ordinary person. Mr. Roman, can you? By the way, I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Chopper, Tony Chopper. Bang! Just when the atmosphere was just right, the door was suddenly kicked open, and two figures rushed in. Meet. Fold your dinner. Chapter 62. Watch the show calmly swallow fruit. After a while, poor Chopper jumped out of the window and fled, while Luffy and Sanji, who were about to catch up, snapped. Two ruthless iron hands grabbed their shoulders from behind. Roman with a smile, beckoned to the two who were caught by his paper hands. Come on, I have some questions for you. What? I remember going to help Miss Nami cook. Looking at Roman who was covered in bandages, Luffy and Sanji slanted their heads left and right with a guilty conscience. We have a problem, written on the face. You two explain to me. Roman pointed to himself. Why do I wake up with so many injuries? Don't say I fell in my sleepwalk. Even pigs won't believe such an excuse. Hey, don't you believe? Looking at Luffy with a disappointed face, the smile on Roman's face jumped with blue veins. Feelings, do you really want to use this excuse to fool me? An embarrassed Sanji spread his hands. Because there are only doctors here in this country, Luffy and Zoro sent you and Nami here for treatment. Go on. Roman stretched out his hand and motioned for Sanji to continue. But we underestimate the harsh environment here. First we encountered bears, then we encountered rabbits, followed by avalanches and finally we had to climb Titong Mountain, which is 5,000 meters above sea level, so. In the face of Roman's staring, Sanji embarrassed Isho. So there are bumps, for example, when encountering a large group of rabbits, Luffy uses you as a weapon, or something. Didn't I carry Nami behind my back, and I had no choice but to hold Roman in my mouth as a meteor hammer. And when you encounter an avalanche, Sanji, don't you use Roman as a snowboard? HMPH, in order not to let Miss Nami get a little bump, I have to sacrifice Roman. This is what a gentleman should have. The two figures were thrown out of the window, and Roman clutched his forehead in love. I thank you all. Sure enough, it is said that overuse of the ability can cause the injury of the whole body to be scratched and beaten. It was because of these two guys. It's really not enough for the two of them to play. As for Zoro, do not ask. Asking is lost halfway. But Roman had swept the two of them with the observation hockey he had just learned. Luckily, Luffy had a skin injury. Sanji really deserved the title of Bone Crack King. He fractured his whole body more than a dozen times, and even got injured. Spine can still be alive and kicking. It seems that the way for the two of them to send themselves and Nami up the mountain for medical treatment is not easy. Roman, why are you sighing here alone? Nami, why are you up? Roman waved his hand, and blank sheets of paper first blocked the window that was smashed by Chopper, Luffy, and Sanji in turn, then frowned and looked at Nami, who came in through the door in a cotton-padded coat. Your constitution is already weak, don't just fall down again. With a wave of his hand, blank sheets of paper flew over to form a chair behind Nami. Under the chair, there are 6 long legs like spiders. Paper dance, spider wheelchair. Sit down and rest. But Vivi's country. Nami said while sitting on Roman's creation, and Roman also made such a wheelchair for herself. The wounded should look like the wounded. Although Roman's constitution has nothing to do with ordinary people, he can't do things like bursting bones and playing tricks around. Don't worry, a country with a population of tens of millions and a history of hundreds of years will not be ruined in a day or two. Roman knew that because of similar experiences, all for her own village country, all alone, facing a desperately powerful enemy, so Nami really wanted to help Vivi. But before he had truly seen Shichibukai's strength, Roman reckoned that in Nami's mind, he would be considered the #1 master in the world. After all, Arlong, whom she thought could not be defeated, fell at Roman's feet. This really makes him Alexander. Well, let me see where everyone else is. Roman was thinking aimlessly while releasing the investigation paper crane. In fact, if you pull foreign aid, not to mention Garp and Dragon, Luffy's eldest brother Ace is now in Alabasta, and he can be regarded as a real master. Although it is not the first echelon, it will never be at a disadvantage in the face of Crocodile. Only Luffy can't do things like a group of relatives and friends, let alone Roman. And Ace also has his own business, that is, giving away people's heads ahem. No, it's chasing Blackbeard. So Roman, who was in a wheelchair, attached observation hockey to the released paper crane, and immediately had a panoramic view of a large area. With the assistance of observation hockey, Jihei's detection function has taken a qualitative leap, and it is no longer limited to images, but can see the colors of living things. Ha ha ha, it's still the same here as before. No, why are these three unlucky bastards here? What sound? Just look at it and see. Roman controlled the two spider wheelchairs to the window. Looking down from the broken window, a fat and bloated acquaintance was standing in front of the castle, the building where Roman and Nami were, and was happily opening his arms. Drum Kingdom, your king is back. That the guy like a barrel is. Facing Nami's doubts, Roman just casually raised his chin. King of the Drum Kingdom, Wapol. That is the castle we are in, and the master of this country. What? The king of a kingdom, a character of this status is still very impactful for Nami, but for others. Rubber. A figure flashed in the snow below, and Luffy's fist greeted Wapol's bizarre face. Bullets. Bang. Wapol, who was Return of the King 1 second ago, volleyed and flew out the next second. If it wasn't for his two subordinates to grab it in time, it is estimated that he would have fallen directly from the top of this mountain with an altitude of 5,000 meters. Bold, how dare you attack the king? This is a member country of the world government. I care who you are, a bunch of bad guys. Luffy grimaced angrily. I don't want to see you. If you don't leave, I'll beat you up. Sneak attack, another sneak attack. Getting up from the ground, Wapol, like an iron bucket, wiped his nosebleed fiercely. I'm going to kill all of you bloody bastards. Devouring, fighting Wapol. As he activated his abilities, his body turned into a solid house, his hands turned into cannons, and all kinds of things he ate turned into weapons and appeared on his body. Luffy Don't worry, we can just watch the play. Wapol say, in terms of strength, it's actually pretty decent. The artillery roars, the bullets fly, and the defense is covered with iron, and the combat power is at least 40 million to 50 million. And in the face of Luffy and Chopper's attack, Sanji was forced to hang up by the same doctor who watched the play because of a vertebral fracture. 139-year-old drive. Kurha sat under him. Wapol is not going to fight alone, but a big mouth. Tun Factory. Swallow the court clown archer named Jace and the explosive-headed boxer named Chromolimond in one bite. Then he chewed and spit it out again while Luffy and others were stunned, and turned into one. A guy with 2 heads and 4 arms. I am the strongest warrior in the Drum Kingdom. I'm Jess Chromolimond. That's it. Roman, who was watching the play behind the window, narrowed his eyes and looked at the devil fruit known as the most buggy. Tun fruit can not only fuse various weapons, metals, but even life forms. Turning 2 people into one, eating oneself and then spitting it out, it's just unbelievable. Luffy once said, "Snow country people don't sleep, if they sleep they will die." Blackbeard never sleeps. In Odin's recollection, Blackbeard boarded Whitebeard's boat behind an island of snow and mushrooms. Very similar to Drum Country. As we all know, only one devil fruit can be eaten per person. But Blackbeard can control more than one devil fruit. It means that his body is more than one. Coupled with the scene in front of you, the ability of Tuntun fruit to fuse life, and Blackbeard's actions to destroy the Drum Kingdom. It's hard not to be suspicious. These are all things that Roman heard the analysis of the great gods before crossing. Of course, as for whether it is or not, there is no way for Roman to know now. But he knows one thing. Wabo metal. The high-strength memory alloy is something that will be produced and synthesized by the brutal King Wapol, who is fighting Luffy below, with his fruit power. It has self-healing ability and strong fighting ability. Its strength. Let's just put it this way, the General Frankie of the Straw Hats was made of this metal, and it was hard to resist Big Mom's punch, no matter how hard the punch was, but it was clear that the metal was unscathed. Terrifying place. After the world government obtained this metal, the secretly developed Pacifist 2.0 feat even gave Marine the confidence to depose Shichibukai, and at the same time allowed Wapol, the idiot, to return to the world government's joining countries, which is very telling. Wapol, ah Wapol. Should I kill you now to avoid future troubles, or wait? Roman. Huh. The shouting next to him brought Roman back to his senses, and Nami looked at him worriedly. What were you thinking just now? Your face is so ugly. No. Bang. After the transformation, Wapol still lost to Luffy. He was hit by a spiral sprint and vomited blood. Fortunately, Luffy's energy attracted the chopper, who was transforming with the 7th-stage Lampo Ball, so Wapol took the opportunity to go to the castle. Escaped. That Luffy's underdog came in. Although both of them are in wheelchairs, Nami is not panicked at all. After all, in the battles along the way, Roman has shown that he is very reliable with practical actions. So it's just a guy who Luffy can defeat in a few strokes. Are Luffy's men defeated? Roman touched his chin and gradually cracked the corners of his mouth. Ha 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 ha. It's just Luffy's defeat. What's wrong with yourself? Are you afraid of this kind of foolishness? Come on, let's see what this king is doing. Roman controlled 2 spider wheelchairs to walk out of the room. Although he was no longer obsessed with Wapol's life, the other party's ability. It's very useful. Let's get a Tuntun page for Nami's book. P.S. Wapol Small Theater. Wapol, in my short pirate career, I found that the ability to fight is limited. The more you develop the ability to fight, the more you will be hanged by others. Luffy, what are you trying to say? Wapol, I'm not a pirate, Luffy. After being beaten up by Luffy, Wapol's combat power and IQ plummeted, and he even fell to the point of being bullied by dogs and little girls. However, with the combat power and IQ in exchange for unparalleled luck, invented Wabo Metal, served as CEO, married by Fume, and embarked on the pinnacle of life. Buggy left tears of envy when he saw it. Chapter 63-7 Transformation come to an end. Amazing, snowmelt arrows. The 4 hands of the boxing archer who merged into one person really bowed left and right. The burning arrow dragged the long tail flame and flew towards the chopper like a meteor, and the 2 long bows shot the momentum of a submachine gun. Facing the flaming arrows, the little reindeer named Chopper landed on all 4s, and turned directly from a deer man walking upright into a real reindeer. Strengthen leg strength, speed. Meow. Chopper instantly fades away from the cute appearance, showing the style that belongs to the reindeer. Run between arrows and jump on fire. I saw that he faced the arrow rain and turned at an extremely fast speed, avoiding the opponent's heavy arrows like large firearms, such as the antelope leaping over the mountain stream, the bird flying, dodging all the opponent's arrows in an afterimage, and ran out. More than 20 meters away, bringing the distance between the 2 sides to close combat. HMPH, Zone Devil Fruit. However, the Fusion Man on the opposite side was not panicked, because he once had a colleague who was a Zone Devil Fruit ability user. Dalton, the chief guard of the Drum Kingdom, who is capable of Ox Neo Fruit. A real, benevolent fellow captured against Wapple's tyranny. I already know the 3 transformations of you Zone Fruit powers, reindeer people. I am a human reindeer. Dash in front of the enemy at high speed in a reindeer state. Chopper stands up instantly, and his body stretches like a balloon in a burst of squirming at the same time. It's just that unlike the balloon, the outline of the muscles bulging under the fur clearly shows the strength of this body. Muscle strengthening, power. Chopper is like a master boxer, with his right hand clenched into a hammer, his waist rotates, his vertebrae sway, and a spiral fist smashes the Fusion Man's head on his chest with a violent wind. Snapped. The palms slammed together in front of Chopper's fists, and the head above his neck rattled. Don't forget, I'm the strongest boxer in the Drum Kingdom. And I, the strongest archer in the Drum Kingdom. Although he said that he was an archer, the head on his chest moved with a thought, and instantly pulled out 2 sledgehammers and smashed it at Chopper from left and right. His forearms are not ornaments, but limbs that can launch deadly attacks. From the new group. Amazing, Powder Body Hammer. Boom. Hit the hammer down, and the snow waves splash. The earth is cracked. The surging force forcibly vaporized the half-meter-thick snow in an instant, exposing the frozen soil that was like steel under the cold for thousands of years. However, the target Chopper is. Where did you run to? Strengthen leg strength, leap. The Fusion Man suddenly raised his head. On top of his head, Chopper, who maintains a human shape but has slender limbs, flips in the air. Just now, with his amazing bouncing power, he instantly jumped off the ground to avoid the opponent's warhammer. How can it be possible? The 4 eyes of the Fusion Man were all shocked. Isn't there only 3 forms of animal fruit? What is this? Although Chopper's fighting form was far beyond the expectations of the Fusion people, he was, after all, the strategist and guardian of the Drum Kingdom. Even in shock, his fighting instincts still drove him to slam the warhammer into the air. Chopper smashed away. There is nowhere to borrow in the air, you are dead. Facing the huge warhammer with a mournful sound of breaking through the air, Chopper just shrank his body calmly, and his whole body suddenly shrank into a childlike mass, and then... bang! Suddenly, exploded. Fur reinforcement, armor. The huge warhammer fell on Chopper, but his hair as fluffy as cotton and tough as steel absorbed 99% of the impact. Let him fall to the ground unscathed, the whole person is like a giant furball. Your hammer won't hurt me. Grinning, baring teeth, both faces of the Fusion person showed a ferocious expression, and at the same time roared in exasperation. Stop being complacent, you monster. Hey, you're so embarrassed to call other people monsters. Sanji, who was forced to hang up by the 139-year-old drive. Kurha, could only use complaints to brush his presence. On the other hand, Luffy, who was supposed to fight Wapple, was envied by Chopper's 7-Dan transformation, and his eyes were full of stars. It's so handsome. The 7th stage transformation. I must pull this reindeer into the boat. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Wrist strength, hoof. Amazing, 8-sided avalanche. The muscles of Chopper's arms, which maintain his human form, are bulged up like iron pillars, and his hands are transformed into iron hooves that can easily smash huge rocks. The Fusion Man also took out 2 giant axes, and the axes and hammers fell in all directions to Chopper. And Chopper is not polite, throws his fists hooves like flying, aiming at the opponent's weapons in a series of shots. Astonishingly, they attacked each other without giving in. Ha ha ha, go die. One side is mad, and the other is silent. One is a sharp axe and a hammer, the other is bare-handed. Clang 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 clang. The dense, iron-like sound resounded through the entire battlefield with excitement and coherence, interspersed with Chopper's constantly turning red fur. But at the back, the sound gradually turned into a click, and it was actually the metal that couldn't withstand the stormy counterattack. What? Click. With a light hand, the fusion man's weapon suddenly burst into pieces of iron. Let him stumble and put his arm in front of him, but... People. The eyes were empty, and the reindeer that was still fighting fiercely just now disappeared. Where are you looking? A calm voice came from below, causing the two heads of the fusion person to bow their heads at the same time, and what came into sight was cherry blossoms. The hoofs like cherry blossoms were enlarged in the four pupils at the same time, and before the fusion person could react, they were printed under the jaws of his two heads at the same time. Integrate all human thinking abilities. Carved hoof, Sakura. Pop, X2. In the crisp sound of the merger, the tall fusion man slowly fell backwards. I will never let anyone trample on the teacher's dream. Meanwhile, in the castle. Brother, big brother. Okay, let me go. I ask you, can you synthesize Wabo metal? Facing Roman's question, Wapple, who was lying on the ground like a fat hippo, was stunned. This sounds a bit like my name. Either like, or something you invented. Forget it, it seems that there is definitely no Wabo metal in this time period. Then, White Knight, do it. Don't. Glancing at Wapple, who was stomped on the ground by the White Knight, to draw blood, Roman and Nami, who were sitting in wheelchairs, both had black lines on their faces. Please, it's not just pumping a few pounds of blood from you, and it's not killing pigs. In general, the battle situation in the castle is simple. Wapple rushed in and saw Roman, shocked. Finding Roman looks crippled, overjoyed. Wappola came up. Roman released the White Knight. Wapple played GG with laughter. White Knight, finally, ye is no longer a miscellaneous soldier who brings tea and water and sails young fan. As the first puppet skill developed by Roman, the White Knight, who has devoted most of his energy, is positioned as a combat unit, but because he has only basic intelligence, he is always in a state of errands. But if Roman wants to, he can put his spirit into it. In addition to being less powerful than the main body, the characteristics of speed and not afraid of injury make the White Knight's fighting power not inferior to Roman, who has no fruit ability. It's about a whiteboard with a 40 million bounty. Although it is not that strong, it is enough to deal with Wapple with a lot of experience. Gee, forget it. Let this guy go. The Tuntun fruit is a bug, but even if he gives the Tuntun ability to Roman now, he doesn't have time to develop it. So, it's better to take a few tubes of Wapple's blood and save it in the ultimate art of thieves. When Wapple develops Wapple metal, Roman can make it by himself when he gets the sample. And with the ability to swallow fruit, many ideas are. Bang! Roman. Luffy, who had just been watching Chopper's battle, rushed in. Did you see that guy? It's that iron bucket like a hippo. Roman pointed to Wapple, who was running towards the roof. After he had pumped a few pounds of blood, he, deliberately, released the White Knight's hand, giving Wapple a chance to use a trick of devour himself. Become a flexible skinny, and then use the peerless skill, sprint. Stop. Luffy chased after him, and the result was no suspense, and Roman had already begun to think about how to use the 2 pages in his hand. Chapter 64 Chopper Occupation Sakura Farewell. Mr. Dalton, your injury. On a funicular that connects the top of the mountain, the gondola carries Vivi, Zoro, Usopp, several armed militiamen and a tall, middle-aged man. Dalton, the chief guard of the Drum Kingdom, is arguably the only official in this country who cares about the people. However, it is for this reason that Wapple, who is returned to China, was the first to be used as an example to kill chickens. It doesn't matter, I have to beat Wapple. The wounded middle-aged man gritted his teeth. Although he could be regarded as the country's second strongest fighting force, he was still no match for Wapple and his 2 former colleagues. But it's not my opponent, I'm going up to If I don't fight, who will change this country? What royal family, what politics? What's wrong with wanting to govern a country with heart? Boom. Ha ha ha, brat, you are too careless. Wapple, who slammed through the building in front of him with a zero-distance mouth cannon, physical, laughed on his hips, and finally let out a breath of madness by Roman, but snapped. You're careless. Luffy, who was hiding behind Wapple in an instant, grabbed the opponent, and his body suddenly twisted a few times. Rubber, sky cannon. Bang. Wapple, who was thrown upward by Luffy, slammed through the roof in an instant, and then the whole person was stuck on the ceiling, facing a tattered cherry blossom skull flag. It was the skull and bones flag he had blasted with the cannon before, grabbed by Luffy and planted back on the roof. Snapped. Luffy also rolled over from below and flew up onto the roof, punching him. Don't know what to do, don't touch other people's skull flags. Although this sea is mostly filled with rubbish that burns, kills and loots with skull flags, it also uses this flag to carry dreams. Fool. Rubber, rubber, rubber. Extend your hands back, extend, extend. Because Wapple is stuck, this time Luffy can charge up and tell. Wait a minute, I'll make you a noble, don't. Look, there's someone on the roof. Here are Zoro, Vivi, Usopp, and Dayan named Dalton who just arrived by cable car. Master Drum Kingdom. This is the head-up chopper. It's over. It is rare to have such a simple copy. This is Roman who added the pages of the book in his hand to The Art of Thieves. Stop it, I'll make you the deputy king. Facing Wapple's panic buying, the answer to him was bazooka. Collapse. Poor Wapple turned into a meteor in the sky on the spot under Luffy's extremely charged rocket launcher. I believe he will never have a chance to come back to harm the drum. No, the kingdom of cherry blossoms that will be renamed. The dust settles, everyone is happy. Bring all the sick in. The name drive. Kurha waved to everyone. When she saw the duo watching the play by the window in the corridor on the second floor, she frowned. You guys also go back to the ward for me. Okay, Nami, let's go back. Roman was very kind, but Nami looked anxious. How anxious Vivi is when we're procrastinating like this. To be honest, Roman can't wait to be able to recuperate here for a year or two. When the fruit develops enough, it is best to train hockey to the advanced level, but Crocodile's actions don't wait for anyone. And if it weren't for various accidents, Roman himself would not know when he would learn elementalization and observation hockey. It seems that people are really forced out. Then face it. Isn't he that Shichibukai? Of those traversing seniors, which one is not as simple as drinking and eating with Shichibukai alone? There's no reason why you can't do it yourself. Dalton, where is the key to the castle's arsenal? Hearing drive. Kurha who was asking about the injured man next to him. Roman's eyes moved, and he controlled the spider wheelchair to walk over. The key was always kept by Wapple himself, replied the gentle, big man in bandages. That means the key should have been beaten away with Wapple. This time. Excuse me, Roman walked over and nodded to the 139-year-old spiritual mother-in-law named Drive. Kurha. If it's a lock, I can help. However, corresponding to this, we hope to be able to discharge early. What do you think? Paper dance, keys. The note in his hand stretched into the keyhole, and with a slight turn of Roman, the iron lock of the door in front of him opened with a click. Devil fruit ability is really convenient. Come some people to accompany me to carry things, Drive. Kurha who nodded in satisfaction pointed back to Roman. Boy, I didn't send anyone to monitor you, there are changing clothes in that room. But don't you want to sneak away? Understood. Roman nodded, put on his clothes and hurry up to get out. Okay. Hey, reindeer. Let's be a pirate with us. Roman controlled the spider wheelchair to carry Nami, Sanji, and himself when he saw Luffy shouting everywhere. Hello, Luffy. The guy you're looking for isn't named Reindeer, he has a name, he's named Chopper. Oh oh. Luffy, who heard Roman's words, shouted again. Reindeer Chopper. Let's be a pirate with us. This guy. You're like this, no one else wants to. It's not that I don't want to but. A voice interrupted Roman's words, and Petite Chopper came out of the woods next to him. But I'm just a reindeer with horns, hooves, and a blue nose. Stop chattering. But Luffy just interrupted Chopper's grief with a hearty laugh. Just follow me. HMPH, the person who invited others actually said, less chatter. Zoro grins. You're so horny, Luffy. Roman shook his head. Nami, Usopp, Vivi and Sanji, who was lying on the corpse, all smiled. I'll take you down in a sleigh. Facing the Chopper who turned into a reindeer, Roman did not say that he could be a glider to send everyone down the mountain. It's a group of people crammed into a sled and then brush. I am going to die, I'm going to die. In the night sky, under the bright moon. A sleigh pulled by a deer flies across the sky. Of course, the sled is actually being pulled on a cable by the Chopper. It's scientific and normal, it's just that this way of going down the mountain is more irritating, and people with bad hearts, such as Usopp, have already passed out with white eyes. Ha ha ha, if it rolls over, the Straw Hats will. Shut up, Zoro, X3. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, there were bursts of gunfire from the top of the mountain. As the Straw Hats that had landed safely raised their heads, pieces began to float from the sky. Pink Sakura. Oh 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 oh. Faced with such a magical scene, Chopper raised his head and burst into tears. Although other people don't know the inside story, but this turbulent emotion. It's a grand farewell. Really enviable. Whether it's Nami or Usopp, Sanji, Luffy and Chopper who I haven't seen with my own eyes. When they went to sea, they all brought the sincerest blessings of their relatives. Rather than, what are you looking at me for? Zoro was stared at by Roman's eyes, and a non-human body that could swim in ice and snow felt a tremor. Ha ha ha, it's okay, it's okay. On this ship, it is estimated that only you and Zoro went out to sea alone, right? Sure enough, the strong are destined to be alone. Let's go, everyone. Facing Luffy's greeting, everyone followed suit. Back to going merry, let's go on. Wow, I didn't expect to enjoy cherry blossoms in the ice and snow. There are so many things you didn't expect, come and drink. Poured a cup for Sanji. Zoro has not developed to the point where everything with the chef has been developed. Ha ha ha, Chopper, would you like to try it? Luffy and Usopp, who had chopsticks in their nostrils, started playing tricks again, just as Nami covered her forehead and just opened her mouth. Chopper, you don't want to learn. Ha ha ha, Chopper, you learn fast. Ah, yes. Roman, who was sailing the boat, touched his chin. No wonder I always felt that something was missing. The threesome of the Straw Hat sand sculptures lived together. Right. I haven't thanked you yet. Roman turned his head to look at Marianu, the calm-faced little girl next to him. He had already learned from Zoro that if the senior cadre in the Baroque Works room hadn't used his unique skills to help him at critical moments, Roman would not have. Speaking of awakening, observation hockey, and even finding the Drum Kingdom are two different things. You, welcome. The little girl named Marianu shook her head. You kept the promise to release Mr. 3, Mr. 5, Miss Valentine's Day, so I'll keep the promise to help you. Until Alabasta. Well, what a pity. This is a real god-level assistance, but everyone has their own aspirations and cannot be forced. So, for our new companion. As the feast on deck reached its climax, Luffy raised his glass. Everyone, even Roman, who doesn't drink alcohol, took the glass from Nami. Cheers. Cheers. X7. Chapter 65 Era Bass Xiaofeng comes on stage. I'm about to enter the crocodile dungeon, let me say in advance that Roman Reigns is going to be beaten. This is a big turning point in the book. By the way, there will be a lot of Straw Hats fighting in the future, and Roman Reigns is not visible for a whole chapter. Possibly, of course, I try to write new ideas. Ongoing Mary. Luffy, it's all your fault for eating all the bait. Aren't you eating too? While Luffy and Usopp were arguing, Vivi came over and asked. What did you catch? Ah, why use, run fast, as bait. Quack. The poor crocodile cried out for help. We want to fish for sharks. Neptunes can also. Bang, X2. One punch knocked Luffy and Usopp over on the deck, and Vivi, who became more and more, Straw Hat, covered his forehead with a headache. But the special situation ahead caught her attention. What's that? The eyes of the White Knight at the helm on the deck changed from artificial mental retardation to Roman control. That thing. Nami, look what's out there. In Going Mary's cabin, Roman tapped the book in front of him. And Nami was closing her eyes and sticking a card with eyes on her forehead. Well, it's just ordinary water vapor. Although she was sitting in the cabin, Nami explained as if she had witnessed what was happening outside. This is because she is observing, with the help of the reconnaissance paper cranes that Roman released around. A natural phenomenon caused by the eruption of magma from a submarine volcano. A new island may be formed here after thousands or tens of thousands of years. Roman recounted Nami's words to Luffy and others outside through the White Knight, which immediately attracted several people to discuss the boring question of whether they could live to that time. However, the poor crocodile, running fast, is still being fished by Luffy and Usopp on a fishing line, and Vivi. It turned out that she just wanted to beat up these two second hands. Roman, get some food out. In the cabin, in the face of Sanji's request, Roman nodded and opened the Robe's Extreme Art on the table. On the third page was a big mouth like an iron barrel. Puff. As the mouth on the screen spit, a packet of ingredients flew out of the page. It's really useful ability, Sanji said casually, especially for chefs. Well, a locker and refrigerator would be nice too. Roman replied casually, the pages he made with Wapple's ability to swallow, let alone the combat function, the storage of supplies was a pleasant surprise. Otherwise, should be able to hold on to Alabasta, right? Ongoing Mary, under normal circumstances, enough food for dozens of people to eat for half a month was consumed by the Straw Hat group in just a few days. The reason is, I was dragged by Roman to train with observation hockey every day, and I was starving. Luffy's wailing came from outside the cabin. Although Roman's face was expressionless, his heart was not calm. Genius. Maybe Luffy didn't realize it himself, he's already mastered observation hockey. In the training ground, behind, Roman has signaled Marianu to quietly shave the color on the puppet who was training with Luffy, and even change the angry red to the leisure green, but Luffy was still able to dodge 9 out of 10. That is to say, as long as he fights with Luffy with hostility, he will instinctively avoid the opponent's attack. This makes even Roman, who has mastered the farsightedness and perspective abilities, feel the pressure. Everyone's observation hockey will be different, some focus on long-distance perception, some focus on combat intuition, some focus on subtle discrimination. Roman's observation hockey is more suitable for reconnaissance than combat. If you continue, maybe it will. Roman. Nami frowned and looked at the young man opposite her who had been shouted a few times before she recovered. She obviously felt that the closer she got to Alabasta, the tighter Roman's whole body became. Like a drawn bow, like an unsheathed knife, the suffocating aura on his body is becoming more and more irresistible. It's like a beast being pressed by hunters step by step. That's right, Roman now feels to Nami not a hunter, but a prey. Huh. The recovered Roman waved his hand. I'm fine. Lie. Nami lowered her eyes, her lashes covering her bright eyes. Roman, the paper in your hand that you unconsciously pinched into a ball has nothing to do with nothing. Ah, what a big fog. I can't see anything. There was a commotion outside, and then it became. How do you catch someone? Ordinary. Ah, he fell into the water. I'm going to save him. Thump. I fell into the water. Come and save me. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. It's outside. Nami stood up and was about to go out to have a look, but Roman waved her hand to stop it. Let them make trouble. You'd better take the time to familiarize yourself with the use of this book. Okay. Hey, talk about it. Nami, who sat down again, sighed while looking at The Ultimate Art of a Thief, spread out on the table. After I got the book, I didn't use it well. It really should be practiced. I'm so sorry. A man in a swan suit, with a cape with the word, Penmu-ri, written on the back, a furry headdress on his head, and lipstick and eyeshadow on his face. No, shemale thanks to Luffy at all. You pirates who didn't know each other saved the slave family, and the slave family will never forget this kindness. It's him. In the cabin, Nami is carefully controlling the paper in her hand through The Art of Thieves. And Roman sat opposite her, with his eyes closed, but the spirit had quietly fallen into the body of the White Knight, who was sailing the boat. Mr. Point 2 Von Cree. The person who imitates the fruit ability, because he thinks he is both a male and a female. The title in the Baroque Works room also contains the number 2 of the male cadre, and the festival name of the female cadre Oban Festival, which is the only one under Crocodile who does not partners senior cadre. Simply put, it is the combination of Mr. 2 and Miss Oban. At the same time, he is also an important driving force behind all the turmoil in Alabasta. Without his imitation fruit to sow discord, VV's country would be in the current state. So, do it now. Taking him down will instantly expose Alabasta's conspiracy and solve VV's predicament. But eggs are useless. In this world where great power is attributed to oneself, the strong is everything. Even if the misunderstanding is solved now and the King Army and the Rebel Army unite together, what is the use? An angry crocodile can completely push the entire Alabasta by one person. In the desert, he is invincible, and no amount of miscellaneous soldiers can hurt him. Not to mention Seastone, a giant sandstorm that can defeat thousands of troops without his hands. Not to mention that this technology only stayed in Alabasta during the Great Voyage period. Even in the 21st century of Roman's previous life, the army could only stare blankly when encountering a large sandstorm. Ha ha ha, see you. Luffy, laughter came from outside, exactly the same. Scared. Oh, that's awesome. As long as I touch someone with my right hand, I can be like him, in shape and voice. Even inside. Dong dong dong. Enough is enough. VV's angry voice came from outside, causing Roman's brows to jump. How can a good princess become a violent maniac? It's amazing. Another one. Go on. The trio of sand sculptures on the deck, Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper had already mingled with the Von Cree in the swan suit, laughing and making trouble, making Roman in the cabin rub his temples. Von Cree is a little better. The real headaches are Crocodile and Mr. 1 eating the cut fruit. Mr. Point 1 with a bounty of 75 million is by no means weak, just because Zoro's current strength is to scrape all the way. No, not breaking the defense at all is enough to show its power. Besides, Roman is not sure whether the other party's fruit ability will suppress him. After all, 1 paper, and 1 cut. If you encounter fruit scissors in the future, there is a very high chance that you will be crushed by the fruit. After all, the worldview of One Piece, King of Pirates, will be very abnormal once the fruit is restrained. For example, Enel with a strength of hundreds of millions was beaten by Luffy. Ha ha ha, my boat picked me up. Although the relationship is short-lived, friendship has nothing to do with time. When sailing, the unfamiliar and hearty laughter outside gradually faded away, and Yes, Mr. 2. Mr. Point 2. The only people who will use this strange name in this large CR. Mr. 2. Luffy and the others, who had just had a frenzy with the enemy, suddenly came back to their senses, stunned, and numb on the spot. And most importantly, oops, the other party's ability. Be able to look like any of them. And just now, Vivi held onto the side of the boat, wishing to fly over to catch the pervert just now. I saw my father's face during his performance. That is to say. In other words, he has done a lot of good things in the name of your father. Roman and Nami pushed out the door, and Sanji, who came out with food on the side, also looked puzzled. Did I just miss something? Ah, this someone performed Vivi's naked body just now. Your blood is lost. Ahem, he's not a tough enemy for us anyway. After all, it's just the shape that is similar. A devil fruit that can be cracked by a random code is only powerful when no one knows it. Otherwise, it is just a simple landslide. Many devil fruits have such flaws, hopefully. Roman pressed his chest. Crocodile, swish fruit, is also the same as I know it. Chapter 66 Fire Fist Ace Roman alone. Rape flower. How should people complain about this name? Roman looked at the port city that appeared on the sea level, and tried to divert his attention by complaining in his mind. He has already released a large group of investigation paper cranes, and everything is under his control. But before that, Roman, don't you need to tie it up? Luffy, Zoro, Sanji and everyone in the straw hats, Vivi and Chocobo, who were running fast, had paper tied around their left arm a few times. The paper tape is provided by Roman and is absolutely unique. After all, paper that can be used as armor to block damage, at least in this sea area, only Roman has it. Facing Nami's question, Roman waved his hand. Paper is made by me using my abilities, and I can always. Idiot. Roman, who was knocked on the chest by Nami, faced the paper tape and stretched out his left hand helplessly. Use your own ability to create things tied to your own hands. What a strange move this is, as long as he thinks, a single thought can. Okay, tied up. While Roman was thinking about it, Nami had helped him tie a paper tape around his arm and tied a beautiful bow. This. Okay, no matter what happens in the future. As Luffy stretched out his left hand, Roman, Nami, Zoro, Usopp, Sanji, Chopper, Vivi, and Duck all ran fast and stretched out their left hands to form a circle. In the future, this will be the symbol of our partner. Ah, I feel so stupid. But forget it, anyway, it is very likely that it will be the last time to be stupid with them. Rapeseed Flower Market, West Coast. Be careful when you go ashore, Zoro advised everyone. There are a lot of ships with the Baroque Works flag, and Marine's rice restaurant. However, before he finished speaking, Luffy, who flew off the boat, disappeared in a blink of an eye. Zoro, who sighed, turned to look at Roman, whose eyes were blank and didn't know what he was thinking. It is not the feeling of the soul being separated from the body when the so-called fruit ability is developed, but simple days. Roman, I'll leave you with the tracking on Luffy's side. Huh. Ah, no problem. Facing Roman, who nodded before nodding for a while, Zoro rubbed his short green hair. Roman, you. Forget it, you're a smart man. Zoro jumped off, going merry while holding the 3 knives at his waist, and said without looking back. No things, no more information than all of us. But if you have any problems, you should tell everyone. Even at least you trust Luffy, don't you? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Okay. Rubbing his face, Roman pulled out a stiff smile and let out a sigh of relief. Come on, while Luffy eats, let's restock a little desert environment. And before that, Roman looked at Marianu, who was always calm, that is, Miss Going Joe in the Baroque Works room. Having now set foot on the land of Alabasta, then The deal is officially closed. Roman lifted his chin in the other direction. You are free. Facing Roman's words, Marianu, who was wearing a hat and carrying various painting tools, food and water, took a few steps forward, then turned around and looked at Roman calmly. Aren't you going to shoot? Ha! Roman scratched his hair. If it was me in the past, I would definitely not let a powerful enemy like you leave. It's normal for you to be shot down, but now. Roman waved his hand impatiently and turned decisively. Let's go. Having been with Luffy and the others for so long, I almost forgot that I was a pirate. That. A little girl's calm voice came from behind. We're even. Nami, your figure is so good. In the shops on the outskirts of the city, well, it's just a blanket spread in the sand with all kinds of goods. And an ancient trading scene where even the countryside in Roman's previous life has disappeared. Nami, who walked out of the paper dance fitting room, created by Roman's abilities, was dressed in a desert-style dancer's dress, breathable, less fabric, and added with various metal accessories. She and Vivi stood together. It can attract many men to come and go from this street again and again. Ah, it's okay. In the face of Vivi's praise, Nami was obviously a little absent-minded. But she wasn't the only one who was absent-minded, such as Roman, who frequently touched his chin and distracted, such as Zoro leaning against the wall with his eyes closed. Where are we going next? Faced with Zoro's question, Vivi explained, we're going to the rebel stronghold, a place called Juba. Only by first exposing Crocodile's conspiracy to the rebel side can hide. Speaking of, half Vivi was pulled down by Zoro, because in the city center. Don't let him escape. A group of Marines with guns and knives jumped and ran after a figure. Any pirates? That unlucky bastard is so. Just when the Straw Hats were watching the play calmly. Hi Zoro. Luffy, who was being chased, ran to the crowd without hesitation, followed by a string of pursuers. Don't come here. It's you who brought Marine here. In this situation, the speechless people had only one last option left. Run. Coming. Roman's eyelids drooped, and he ran to the side as if he had suddenly returned to his soul. Follow me all. But I've asked the White Knights to steer the ship aside and be able to avoid Marine's warships. Great, Roman is still so reliable. As everyone made a big turn, the port in the south turned into a desert in the southwest. The paper cranes hovering in the sky have a panoramic view of the whole city, so Roman clearly knows where Luffy is coming, most of the Marines and the White Hunter Smoker. They were all blocked by a person who was naked and covered in flames. Portgas d'Ace. Luffy and Sabo, the captain of the Whitebeard 2nd Division, the true master with a bounty of 550 million berry. Currently on the way to hunt down Blackbeard, this time he specially came to give Luffy the Vivre card. Vivre card. Vivre card, also known as life paper, is a special item in this world. Only in the New World, it is neither afraid of water nor fire. It is a kind of paper that represents the vitality of the owner. Usually people will tear it up and give it to relatives or friends who are about to separate, and the torn paper will attract each other. At the same time, the Vivre card can also reflect the state of the owner, withering when sick, burning when injured. Burn out and die. Roman's eyes have flames beating, and only if he has a sample, he can immediately make up for his two shortcomings with the fruit ability. This kind of thing is simply the best artifact for paper fruit. So. Okay, let's rest here for a while. After shaking off Marine, Roman stopped behind a dune. Although everyone didn't know Roman's plan, there was no objection because of Roman's reliable expression, and run fast, I have something for you. Taking advantage of the opportunity to rest, Vivi took out a letter to her Mount Duck. This is the result of my investigation with. You go all the way north back to Albana, give the letter to my father, and he will know everything. The smart dachshund runs fast, nodded fiercely, then stepped forward and galloped all the way to the north. And not long after. Bang! Yo, Luffy. A gentle voice sounded on the hill, causing everyone to raise their heads suddenly and put on a vigilant posture. Apart from Roman and Luffy. Ha ha ha, Ace. Facing the vigilant Straw Hats, Luffy introduced to everyone with a smile on his face. This is Ace, my brother. Huh, X4. You guys actually have. Walking up and down the hill was a man with black shattered hair, peaceful eyes, and freckles on his cheeks. He wears an orange cowboy hat with smile and sad badges on the brim. In addition, there is a brand of skull and crossbones tied with a red bead necklace on the neck, and the muscles of the naked upper body are well proportioned. The lower body is a pair of 5-point pants, and a dagger is pinned to the belt. Facing the Straw Hats who put away their attack, the man named Ace bowed his head politely and saluted. Thank you for taking care of my brother. Indeed. X5. Recalling Luffy's performance along the way, the man was silent and the woman was crying. By the way, Luffy. Ace invited Luffy who was standing in front. Would you like to come to the Whitebeard Pirates? I can introduce you to join us. However, I want to be One Piece King of Pirates. One Piece King of Pirates, of course it is impossible to carry someone else's flag. I knew it. Ace just smiled. He knew his younger brother, so he just asked casually. This is for you. A small piece of white paper was thrown to Luffy by Ace, causing Roman, who was deliberately hiding behind the crowd, to blink. Then the man named Ace looked at the Straw Hats behind Luffy. I have a stubborn and stupid younger brother, and the older brother is very worried about him. You are the same. Saying that, he bowed his head seriously again. Luffy will leave you alone. After he finished speaking, he turned around gracefully. Goodbye by fate. Luffy, can you show me the paper your brother gave you? Facing Roman's words, Luffy handed him the note without hesitation. Grabbing the square piece of paper in his hands with trembling hands, Roman closed his eyes, and all of a sudden, excitement, surprise, seriousness, silence, and resolute flashed across his face. I'll give it back to you, you can take it. Of course. Everyone moved forward in silence, and the joy of meeting brother Luffy just now seemed to disappear in an instant. And Roman also slowly changed from the front of the team to the middle, from the middle to the back silently, until he stopped moving. And Luffy and others had already turned over the dunes ahead. Snapped. A hand grabbed Roman's arm, and there was Nami's trembling on the arm, and her crying voice with her head down. Come on, we want you to show the way. Going ahead is going Mary. Roman. Sorry. Wow. Nami's hands were empty, and the figures behind her turned into falling papers. Each one is just snow white with nothing on it. Why? Nami, are you crying? When Nami turned around the front dune, everyone in the Straw Hats stood there silently waiting. No. Nami, who wiped her face fiercely, raised her head and bit her lips tightly. It's just the sand blows in my eyes. Let's go. She quickly crossed the crowd and walked towards Going Mary who appeared in sight. Then Roman. Roman, he has something to do, let's go first. But. Chopper wanted to say something, but Usopp covered his mouth next to him. It doesn't matter, Roman can catch up, he has always been reliable. Always. Chapter 67 Hard to Persuade Single-Handed Banquet. Ha ha ha, you've found a solid group of friends, Luffy. Ace, who was walking slowly towards the port with a salute on his back, suddenly stopped and asked without looking back. So, what's the matter with your excellency? Clap la la. Jong white paper formed a human shape more than 10 meters behind Ace. Roman looked at the polite man in front, but couldn't restrain disgust. Because of him, Luffy's life in the real sense of 9 deaths. I came to persuade you. Roman suppressed his messy thoughts and spoke slowly. It's not a wise choice to keep going after Blackbeard. Even if Blackbeard didn't get the dark fruit, with the combat power he could give the redhead's face, he was by no means easy. With the dark fruit, Blackbeard is even more powerful, and the fate of Ace's continued pursuit is already doomed. You'll fail, and then. Hee, the newcomer is really. Ace turned around, and a heart-pounding aura rose up, instantly shrouding Roman. What gave you the courage to teach me a lesson, new man? After thinking about it for a while, Roman sighed. Do you want to say, I am a transmigrator, understand? I'm afraid that Ace on the opposite side is also an evil spirit. Isho replied, coincidentally, so am I. Dark fruit, the effect after eating is, the body changes into darkness, with infinite gravity like a black hole. It can inhale everything that is in contact with the darkness, compress and smash it with infinite power, and attract the ability to make its ability invalid, but must be touched by hand. Quote. Under the huge pressure, Roman's calm voice made Ace stunned for a moment, and the momentum on his body was instantly put away. At the same time, the dark fruit also has its own flaws. Darkness can attract everything, including bullets, knives, attacks, flames, and lightning. Therefore, after the dark fruit ability person is elementalized, due to the black hole characteristics of the fruit, his body after elementalization will still attract and attack his own body, so can't dodge attacks like other Logias, and is more sensitive to pain than normal people. These are. Ace frowned. If the boy on the other side didn't lie, then such valuable information. Don't get me wrong, I don't like you personally. Roman shook his head calmly. You are usually polite, warm and sincere, intelligent and powerful, but... Roman's words changed. It will be muddled at the critical moment. You're nowhere near as good as Luffy. Be quiet. Ha 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 ha. In the face of Roman's sarcastic words, the man opposite laughed heartily. Thank you. Thank you for being so optimistic about my brother, I'm very pleased. Hey, Ace, do you understand what I mean? Roman took a deep breath, and finally realized that he was indeed his brother. The stubbornness and ignorance of the guy in front of him were the same as Luffy's. I'll just say it clearly, you're not Blackbeard's opponent. If you continue chasing it, it's just a gift. What about you? Facing Ace's rhetorical question, Roman was stunned and frowned. I don't understand what you mean. Your murderous aura is like a torch in the dark night. Ace pointed to Roman. And there is a sense of decisiveness in the murderous aura. I thought you were coming for me at first. But it doesn't seem to be the case now, otherwise the other party wouldn't tell him the details of Blackbeard's fruit. So, are you going to find some powerful enemy to fight? That's my business. Roman waved his hand forcefully and continued to speak. Didn't you hear clearly? I said you're not from Blackbeard at all. So, are you going to give up? Hey, don't answer me with questions. Facing the impatient Roman, Ace looked at him seriously. Obviously, you're not going to give up the next fight. Me too. Well, good words are hard to persuade to find a dead ghost. Ace, you don't really think Whitebeard can be One Piece King of Pirates? Whitebeard's physical condition is no secret at sea. Maybe he has a year to live, maybe he can only last a month, maybe even tomorrow. Shut up. Yang Yan. Roman's sight was instantly filled with huge flames. Ace on the opposite side just punched, and a raging flame condensed a column of scorching sun that grew several meters long. With the power of the great sun, it pulled out a flame storm that devoured everything, covering Roman's radius of more than 10 meters. Into the fire. Oops. Ace, who subconsciously punched, immediately came back to his senses. The other party was his brother's companion, and he came to tell him about Blackbeard's fruit capabilities and weaknesses. Himself. Boom. The flames devoured Roman in an instant. Even if Ace immediately removed the follow-up power, the entire desert was still burned with a long conical black mark. The steaming ground even reflected colorful rays of light under the sun, and it was the yellow sand that was burned into glass-like crystals by his punch. Don't. Where Roman stood, a huge white tower shield stood there. As the blackened paper peeled off layer by layer, Roman was revealed unscathed behind. Look, Just mention Whitebeard and you'll lose your mind immediately. Huh. First, Ace, who was relieved, raised his brows, resisting the urge to punch the opponent again. You know Whitebeard is. I know. Roman sighed, and finally prepared to work hard. Whitebeard is a man of the highest order, and I apologize to you for what I just said. But I'll say it anyway. If I exchange information with you from one person, can I dissuade your determination to hunt down Blackbeard? No. That person's name is... Roman interrupted Ace's refusal, and spat out a name that made him froze. Sabo. Dead silence. Facing Ace, who was like a suppressed volcano, Roman did not panic, and even took a step forward. How? If you promise, I'll... Ha 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 ha. Looking at Ace, who was laughing wildly, Roman stopped in place, and his face darkened after a while. You think I'm cheating with lies? No. From Shin Chao-chun. Having laughed enough, Ace touched the tears at the corners of his eyes and looked at Roman with a happy face, because he had already guessed the truth from Roman's expression and tone. If it is the news of Sabo's enemy, then the other party should have an instinctive disgust. If Sabo is in danger, the other person should feel anxious. Because Sabo is also Luffy's older brother, he shouldn't be indifferent to Sabo's news because of the importance the boy named Roman, on the other side attaches to Luffy. It was as if he clearly didn't like him and still came to tell him about Blackbeard. So, there is only one truth. Sabo is alive and well. I know you're serious, and I know you're not lying, so... Today is a good day. The man opposite pressed his hat and bowed his head seriously to Roman. You let me know that both brothers are safe and sound, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Really sharp guy, or advanced observation hockey. Very well, then. I'm going to continue the hunt for Blackbeard. I wasted half a day of drooling on feelings, it was a spoiler and a provocation, but you ended up with your left ear going in and the right ear going out. So angry. If my two strengths are exchanged, I will immediately make you kneel and call Dad. Well, it's just angry words. Daddy Ace died so tragically. Forget it. Roman, who had nothing to say, turned around and left. He finally took a deep look at the man named Ace. You'll regret it. Okay, it can be regarded as repaying the other party's kindness for filling up his own shortcomings. Roman opened his palm, and blank sheets of paper flew out of thin air. Although the same as the previous paper, but these are all life papers. I'm not afraid of fire, I'm not afraid of water, plus the hardness of my steel. Roman clenched his fist violently, this was the strongest time he had ever crossed. As long as he simply releases a move, paper dance, maple forest fall, and elementalization, he will have the confidence to face the entire Straw Hats by himself. So, if I can't beat Crocodile, you're going to die. Since you guys are determined to challenge Crocodile, well, the lead is handed to me. Clap la la. Pieces of paper are flying all over the sky, slowly forming a streamlined fuselage, main wing, horizontal tail, and vertical tail. Paper dance, J-20 Veyron. This is the first time Roman has built such a large and complex creation, and even after making it in one breath with his inhuman constitution, he began to pant on his knees. A streamlined fighter plane was parked in the desert in front of him. The canard-style aerodynamic layout of the upper anti-canard and pointed arched edges made Roman nodded with satisfaction, but it's just a look. It's really just a look. Regardless of the shape, in the final analysis it is still a paper airplane. But it doesn't matter. Fly, Veyron. As Roman jumped into the cockpit, the jet behind the plane spit out two red flames. This is Roman using ordinary paper as fuel, to provide kinetic energy, and using life paper to form a heat-resistant shell. Then, shoo! The paper fighter was propelled by the flames and slowly accelerated all the way forward, then the light body was suspended in the air, and finally it flew into the sky. In the cab, Roman spread out the map he had bought. Although the scale above is an exaggerated one, 5 million, and only a bunch of abstract city names are marked, it doesn't matter. Because at this time, there are only 2 places with large water sources, oases, and populations. Albana, Alabasta Kingdom, where the royal family lives, as well as Rain, Alabasta's dream city, Crocodile's home base. So, direction, Rain. Target, Crocodile's head. Huh. The pure white plane cut through the sky, causing the crowd in the desert to raise their heads and look at the strange, big bird, over their heads. Nami, what's wrong with you? No. Nami smiled, but the smile was too forced and Vivi couldn't bear to look directly. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have put you. When she wanted to come, she repeatedly emphasized how powerful Sand Crocodile was and how powerful Roman was. Already escaped. Vivi. Zoro next to him held the handle of the knife and looked into the distance seriously. Roman is by no means a person who will back down in the face of a strong enemy. I'm sorry. Vivi kept bowing her head and apologizing. Because of her relationship, the whole Straw Hat group filled with a heavy atmosphere, and the people she regarded as companies parted ways, which made this strong princess feel heartbroken and sad. It's so hot. Luffy, with his mouth wide open, turned his head and waved to them. You guys hurry up. I'm going to beat that sand crocodile away. P.S. I heard that there is a double monthly ticket event. Then ask for a monthly pass. Chapter 68. Prepare the trap. Please enter the urn. Blue sky, white. Well, there is no such thing as a white cloud in Alabasta, which has been dry for 3 years. Several fraud birds flapped their wings feebly, struggling to find their targets. This smart bird will trick desert travelers by pretending to be dead and then steal their food and water, but since the frequent occurrence of sandstorms, human cities have been buried in the yellow sand, and there are bones everywhere. Fraud birds have to compete with carrion vultures for business. Huh. Quack quack. A huge white, strange bird pierced the sky, scaring these fraud birds with a certain IQ to run away. It's too scary. There is a strange bird that breathes fire from the back of the butt. In the cockpit of the paper fighter, Roman rubbed his hair irritably. Hey, sometimes the more you know, the more troublesome you are. After the good and bad words were finished, Ace remained unmoved. This made Roman can only sigh helplessly in the end. Do you have to say something yourself? You will be caught by Blackbeard. Then Blackbeard will take you to negotiate with Marine in exchange for Shichibukai status, and then Marine finds out your true identity as the son of One Piece King of Pirates Roger, and then sets a trap to lure Whitebeard in the set. Even Luffy was tricked by you to break into Impel Down first, and then fight Marineford, and the protagonist's halo was almost unbearable. If it wasn't for Kizaru's 8-foot breaking ice jade move at a critical time, the dignified Revolutionary Army young master would have been planted in the Marine headquarters. Funny. Even if Ace's observation hockey could judge that Roman was not lying, Ace would definitely think Roman was crazy. Now that Shichibukai's status is as stable as Mount High, can Blackbeard still have the ability to change Marine to Hachibukai? And you dare to say that you will lose without fighting? Is burning the fruit a lighter? As for implicated in Whitebeard, don't make trouble, the world's strongest man has nothing to fear. Well, unless Roman directly reveals his identity as a traverser, or that he eats a prediction fruit, there is still a possibility. But more likely. Don't give up, brother, I'll take you to see the best doctor and take the most expensive medicine. Roman could imagine the scene where Ace looked at himself with pity. It's as if someone in a previous life suddenly said that aliens are going to invade and the Earth is going to be destroyed. It will definitely end up being a VIP suite at City Chingshan Psychiatric Hospital. Forget it, the big deal is that I've tampered with all the newspapers on the ship in the future, so that Luffy won't know. What Roman cares about is the Straw Hat Pirates, not the captain of the Whitebeard 2nd Division. A continuous stretch of urban buildings and oasis appeared in front of him, causing Roman to narrow his eyes and slow down. The cabin of the fighter jet opened, and a flock of paper cranes was sprinkled. Soon Roman found his goal. In the middle of an extravagant pool, there is a huge building in the shape of a pyramid. There is also a banana crocodile carved on it, which shows the identity of the owner here. Sand crocodile, crocodile. Very well, remember this guy is usually in his big casino called Rain Feast. And at this point in time, the senior executives of the Baroque Works room were all gathering at the place called the Spider Cafe, which meant that only Crocodile had to face them. But you can't beat Crocodile with conventional methods, so you have to use under the hood. And this is the reason why Roman left alone. Anyway, he didn't want these dirty things to be seen by Luffy and Nami. Just be a good dreamer. Let me do these things. After all, I'm a pirate. Conspiracy, poisoning, killing people with a knife, these are the professional skills of pirates. Next. The fighter quickly flew over the city. When passing by a group of vicious pirates with knives and guns huddled in the suburbs, Roman's eyes flashed, and he silently lifted the paper fighter and slowly descended. Damn, do you still have Bailey? Lend me some. A pirate took out his pocket, but found that his face was cleaner than his own. No, no. Several other pirates shook their heads again and again. This city's Rainland is Alabasta's famous gold-selling cave, inexhaustible clear water, graceful beauties, aristocratic enjoyment, and expensive consumption. The pirates who spent their money in the gigantic casino, Rain Banquet, lingered on the outskirts of the city, lingering like wild dogs, staring at the underarmed guys with red eyes, ready to swarm. Captain, shut up. More than a dozen pirates cast their hopeful eyes on their former boss, but the guy who has already lost his own ship is helpless, and his title of captain has died in name only. I believe it won't take long. Everyone. The calm voice broke the depressing atmosphere here, and a young and handsome boy walked out from the side alley. Want to get rich? In Roman's hands, a thick stack of green Bailey reflected the same green eyes in everyone's eyes. If you want money, just idiot. The middle-aged man known as the captain stood up and pointed the machete and musket at Roman. Kill you, the money is ours too. Guns loaded, swords unsheathed. Makes sense. Facing the pirate-like behavior of the people around him, Roman nodded without annoyance. Then, katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. After 10 seconds. Want to get rich? In Roman's hands, a stack of green Bailey exudes the fragrance of money. However, the surrounding pirates all bowed their heads and did not say a word. Greedy and helpless. Because his captain and a few colleagues who rushed too fast have used the status quo to show them the horror of coming. If you want money. It's still the same words just now, but with the stumps all over the ground, the legs of the pirates around him twitched uncontrollably, and the lower and lower their waists were, and finally they turned into a humble shape. Just listen to me. Clap la la. The said Bailey was waved by Roman casually, and it was scattered all over the floor. Let the surrounding pirates all shine, as if they saw a vicious dog with flesh and bones. I can give you all these things. Anyway, it's just a fake Bailey made by oneself. Manager, we have received news. In the brightly lit, all-night revelry, called the Rain Banquet, an old man with white hair with onion hair was reporting to Robin, who was sitting on a gorgeous chair, wearing a white cowboy hat and a white mink coat. A group of pirates who don't know how to live or die. The intellectual beauty named Robin waved casually to the deputy manager of the casino. Just let the guards deal with it. Yes, but. The sweaty old man wiped his forehead, bowed his head and continued to report. The guards have been wiped out. Oh. The slender Robin stood up and folded his arms with great interest. What about the Baroque Works room? Have you contacted them? Yes, I have been contacted. The deputy manager of the casino's Rain Banquet lowered his head lower, dripping sweat uncontrollably on the precious blanket. But 50 Baroque Works combatants, 5 squad leaders, and 1 squad leader, have already. Although he did not continue, what he wanted to express in his words was already clear. It's kind of interesting. Although the intellectual beauty named Robin has already passed the point of fear of guns and bullets, it does not mean that these things can't kill people. The fighters in the Baroque Works room are all outlaws, and the squad leader are skilled with guns and murderous. What happened? The voice of a calm, haughty middle-aged man resounded in the hall, causing the old man who was the deputy store manager to bend lower, his hands on his trousers, and his eyes only dared to stare at the ground. In the rustling sound, the third footsteps appeared on the precious carpet. Every step he takes is firm and strong, showing his haughty and unquestionable. There is a mix of power and indifference in the sound. Miss, all Sunday. Just 3 or 2 mice. In the face of the questioning of the person coming, Robin is just Vivi Isho. I'm going to take a look. But to be able to defeat dozens of combatants, it must be a capable person, or not so. The deputy store manager resisted the fear and spoke. The opponent is a group of pirates who have lost all their money. The other 2 casually in the room were stunned for a moment, and then both felt at the same time. Interesting. Let's go and see who is holy, dare to make trouble on my sight. Haki's voice, a black mink coat floated in front of the deputy manager. It made him shrink as if he had seen some kind of beast. No, it was something even more terrifying. Step. It wasn't until the store manager named Robin and the mysterious boss left that the poor old deputy store manager dared to straighten up. Wiping the sweat off his face, he felt as if he had just been pulled out of the water. Too terrifying. As the deputy manager of this giant casino, the old man knows many secrets that are not known to outsiders, such as his own boss Shichibukai, Sand Crocodile, secretly set up a Baroque Works room. For example, Vasco's many tragedies in recent years, it's all related to a killer group called the Baroque Works room. For example, 3 Years of Rain. Call. The old man let out a long sigh, his face exhausted. As an ordinary person without power, the more you know, the faster you will die. Information beyond his ability is just a reminder. P.S. Taking advantage of this period of time to double the monthly pass, ask for a monthly pass. Chapter 69 Crocodile Debut Invincible Pose. Ha ha ha, we are invincible. Cool, so cool. Kill, rob, smash. A group of down-and-out pirates who were still struggling to die in the suburbs before showed their madness, wantonly slashing and killing the armed men who were struggling in front of them. Letting the opponent's blade bullet fall on his body, he was unscathed in the splash of sparks, and he was quite invincible for a while. This is Crocodile's lair, and the so-called government departments have long been in the shape of crocodile. And these armed men who maintain the police are simply the killers of the Baroque Works room. Maid, how did you meet such a tough guy? As soon as a squadron leader from the Baroque Works room scolded, a red-eyed pirate rushed towards him. The machete in his hand slashed down suddenly, a desperate play. With a strange cry, the squadron leader jerked backwards. But the sharp blade still slashed through his chest heavily, scratching the white jacket of his upper body with leather flying all over his body, making his eyes look fierce. Go to hell. A round metal lump fell to the ground while he rolled and flew back, followed by a boom sound. A big hole appeared on the ground, black smoke rose, and yellow sand and soil splashed everywhere. And the pirate also flew out, and then... Ah, my eyes. It was obvious that he was bombed at close range, but the pirate still had all his limbs intact, just covering one eye and mourning, making the squadron captain's eyes flash. Attack the enemy's eyes. As the squadron leader reminded loudly, several of the squad leaders were highly skilled, and one of them raised the musket in his hand, loaded, aimed, and fired in one go. Boom! In the flash of blood, A pirate who was slashing and killing immediately fell on his back. His corpse was twitching on the ground, but he couldn't get up again. Efficient. Several Bakuro battle captains looked at each other with excitement in their eyes. As long as you find the opponent's weakness, it's not difficult to deal with these guys. After all, this is just a group of garbage pirates who have been reduced to robbery in the suburbs. Compared with these elites. Get out of the way. Boom, boom, boom. A tall figure rushed over, like a human flesh tank. It's the boss. Boss, kill them. We are invincible. Amid the shouts of other pirates, the fat and strong pirate charged up with agility that was completely incommensurate with his body, letting bullets and guns hit him. An arm as broad as a shield stood in front of his eyes, and the other hand grabbed a squad leader in his hand with a quick catch, and then... crackling. The poor captain was like a folding stool in the hands of this brawny pirate, and he was grabbed and smashed by him. A large area was emptied in an instant. The combatants in the Baroque works room within this range were either tumbling out of the way or lying on the ground. The boss is mighty. Dry the crocodile. The reign is ours. Although the Baroque works room party found that the weak point of these, invulnerable, pirates is the eyes, but those who can accurately shoot bullets into the eyeballs in the melee are at least the good starters of the squad leader, and the entire battlefield is only a few hands. And the other party can rush and fight hard, as long as you pay attention to protecting your eyes, facing the members of the Baroque works room who can't hurt them. These powerful pirates behave like gods. So when the two figures came to the battlefield, what they saw were the corpses of a group of combat members in the Baroque works room, and the pirates who were howling and threatening to take down the sand crocodile and occupy the reign. Oh! A plain man's voice containing hockey sounded, not loud, but instantly overwhelmed the wolf howl on the battlefield, making the pirates with blood and brains cold. Stupid worm! Everyone turned their heads subconsciously and looked at the two figures slowly approaching. Walking in front was a tall man with a big back, a long scar across his face, an earring in his right ear, and a cigar in his mouth. He has a gold hook in his left hand and 3 ornate gemstone rings in his right. Originally this kind of dress was very tacky, but on this man it made it even more domineering. He was wearing a black fur coat with an orange plaid long-sleeved shirt underneath. If Roman is here, he will definitely complain. This crocodile is too Italian mafia parent style. As for the tall, slender, intellectual beauty next to him, wearing a white cowboy hat and a white trench coat, he was completely overshadowed by his aura. As this man came slowly, many pirates seemed to see a sandstorm in the sky. They devoured them overwhelmingly, and in the face of such natural disasters, they were as small as a mouse. No, they were just insects. Sand crocodile. Crocodile. Shichibukai. One by one, the names were muttered from the mouths of the pirates, accompanied by boundless fear. He is immortal, we are finished, different from those alien pirates who do not know the sky and the earth. These pirates who are active in the reign are fortunate to have seen each other's shots. Let the knife and axe chop, bombard indiscriminately. This man will appear intact from the yellow sand in the sky in seconds. And with just a wave of his hand, no matter how strong a pirate is, he will instantly turn into a mummified corpse. Don't be afraid. Death is terrifying, but for these pirates, the days without money, alcohol, and women are more terrifying than death. Don't they go out to sea with their heads on their belts just to satisfy their own desires? We're invulnerable, and we have. What else? Before the pirate who was trying to boost his morale could react, a tall figure was already standing behind him, his black coat fluttering like a banner of death, and a piece of arc-shaped sand that passed through the pirate's return to Crocodile's hand. Superior. Arc moon sand dunes. After the arm is huge and turned into a crescent-shaped sand blade, it slashes the enemy. Only the sand blade touches the body and does not cause damage. Powerless to fall and become a mummy that lacks moisture. The pirate who was cut first grew out of his mouth and let out a meaningless moan as if he was dying, and then suddenly reacted. I'm okay. Vivi was surprised Crocodile turned his head and looked at these tiny challengers for the first time. Ha 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 ha, I'm fine. The pirate laughed wildly. As Crocodile's signature skill, this trick can instantly turn a few hundred pounds of strong man into a terrifying skill of dozens of pounds of skin and bones. I don't know how many Nightmare of Rain pirates. But just today. Suffer to death, K. Hey. The sight of the pirate who had not finished shouting the slogan suddenly flew high, and his excited brain had not turned around. I am. Snapped. There was a light sound in his ear, and along with the vibration of his cheeks, his eyes were on the ground, and the last picture in his eyes was a corpse without a head standing in front of him. It's not me. So it is. With a wave of his hand, Crocodile, who directly used a physical attack to kill the arrogant pirate in seconds, looked at the opponent's skin thoughtfully. Is it hampering the moisture absorption capacity of my crescent dunes by covering the skin with a special substance? And it seems that there is still a little defensive ability. Nice little clever. Crocodile took a sip of the cigar and calmly looked at the pirates around him. So, you are going to challenge me with this little trick? Dead silence. Although these pirates just said they wanted to replace Crocodile with Crocodile, but when the other party really stood here, they were afraid, trembling, flinching. All pirates subconsciously stayed away from the famous Shichibukai until they are all tight. Not an adjective, nor a psychological effect. It is tightening, in the physical sense. The invincible, defensive armor on their skin is silently reminding them. Back off. Die. Fight. A pirate grabbed the water bottle at his waist violently, poured all the water on top of his weapon, and threw himself towards Crocodile with a ferocious face. Stop putting on the air, we all know your weakness. Puff. With a crisp sound, the pirate volley, who had just rushed halfway, turned into a several paragraph. A few curved sand blades were fleeting, and Crocodile just casually flicked the ashes from the cigar in his mouth. Although I don't know where you guys know about my so-called weakness of fear of water, but... Vivi turned his head, his aggressive pupils swept across the battlefield, as casual as a king patrolling his territory. When the ants grow teeth, they try to challenge the strong. Ridiculous. Come on, boring farce. Salon. The miniature tornado that appeared out of nowhere in the palm of the hand threw out sand blades one after another, and as soon as it left Crocodile's palm, it immediately skyrocketed out of nowhere. The sand blades slashed out of the sky, making a sharp sonic boom, like the roar of the wind blowing across the dunes, crisscrossing the battlefield as if the wind was sweeping away. Even the thick and hard boulders would only be like tofu. Cut from it. Ah. I don't want to die. Row. Puff puff puff. The rock is still like this, not to mention the more fragile human body. Even these pirates have a layer of armor on them. But it still couldn't stop the flying sand blades from cutting vertically and horizontally. In an instant, the entire battlefield became like a meat grinder, with flesh and blood flying, and broken limbs scattered. If this is the so-called blood storm. Robin, who was standing aside, squeezed his white cowboy hat and looked away from the motionless man on the battlefield. You really are a terrifying being who can call the wind and call the rain. Boss. P.S. Thank you for your monthly pass, and add another chapter. Chapter 70. See the picture. 7-step enemy. Ah. I don't want to die. Rush up. Mom. The messy howls exploded among the pirates. In fact, it is estimated that even they themselves did not know what they were shouting. The unconscious voices just to vent the fear of facing death. In the face of a strong enemy, some people are afraid to retreat, some people are brainless, some people are in chaos, and some people act according to plan. But anyway, they're all rushing towards Crocodile. Not how heroic they are, but truly involuntary. That layer of armor that made them invincible before has now become a cage imprisoning them, and life and death are no longer in their own hands. Extremely boring. Puff puff. Crocodile stood in the middle of the battlefield with his arms folded, a calm and gangster demeanor. Completely ignoring these moths to the fire, insects, because the numerous sand blades circling and cutting around him are enough to build an impeccable line of defense. But, puff! A pirate in a strange armor rushed into the sand. Although the white armor on his body had amazing defense, Crocodile's high-speed sand blade was also a tireless cutting machine. Dazzling sparks and harsh friction erupted between the two. Kinda interesting. Crocodile was just a glimpse of Vivi. A sand blade suddenly accelerated. It turned into a piece of yellow, and with a low buzzing sound, it coiled around the pirate's waist. With the high metal friction and thousands of sparks, the pirate was brutally cut in half. However, at the same time that the pirate wearing the strange armor was cut in half, a loud crash sounded. A large puddle of blood drowned the pirate and the sand blade, and the weapon that just killed the pirate and pirate's corpses are mixed together. Crocodile raised his bald brows. The backs of these armor pirates were raised high, and they were all carrying a large bucket of water. As the pirates were strangled one by one, the clear water mixed with blood burst and splashed, and it broke through Crocodile's salon line of defense. Rush forward, rush forward. We can win. He has weaknesses. That Gao Zunmujanyan roared and waved the weapon in his hand. The already cold Baroque Works squadron commander pointed to Crocodile. Ho. Kill it. What people fear most is despair, and once there is hope. Even if this hope is very slim, human beings will burst out with amazing fighting power. After witnessing other pirates use their body to make a bloody path, the pirates, who were already desperate, ignited the flame of hope again, and continued to charge Crocodile while making various meaningless shouts. Many clever pirates picked up the buckets, kettles, water scoops that had been prepared, and threw them to the center of the battlefield. At the same time as it was cut by the sand blade, the sprinkled water immediately turned the flying yellow sand into a slushy slurry and fell to the ground. That's it, that's it. Several pirates in white armor rushed through the tattered sand blade defense line and killed Crocodile with water-stained weapons, their eyes full of excitement of victory. But it's useless. On the edge of the battlefield, Robin, who was watching the play calmly with his arms in his arms, shook his head. If the dignified Shichibukai could be defeated so easily, wouldn't Marine still have a water gun? Facing the pirates with weapons and water in all directions, Crocodile just stretched out his right hand calmly, and a golden machete appeared in his palm. Desert sword, condensation. Die. Shichibukai is just that. Your head is mine. Faced with the rage and weapons so close at hand, Crocodile didn't seem to take his eyes away from the desert sword in his hand. But in an instant, the reflection of the machete in his hand in the sunlight flickered, as if the blade shook slightly. But if it wasn't for the reflection, the naked eye couldn't see it at all. In the next moment, the pirates who were rushing around frantically seemed to have suddenly pressed the pause button, and everyone was frozen in the air. Immediately afterwards, a red line suddenly appeared on their necks, which quickly became thicker. Then the blood appeared. Puff puff. The heads of several pirates rose into the sky, and the expression of ecstasy was frozen on their faces, but there was only blankness in their eyes. He died inexplicably as if he had been hit by some sorcery. There is no sorcery. It was just between the sparks and flints. Crocodile had already slashed around with the desert sword in his hand, and quickly returned to his original position. Because of the speed, it seemed that he had not moved. Terrible. This is not the same as the scumbag of the fighting technique you said. With just one knife, the rest of the pirates were frightened on the spot, and their morale plummeted. But that's okay, after all, no one expected them to have such a thing as morale from the start. In the face of Crocodile, who killed a group of pirates in 1 second, the remaining pirates still, fearlessly, launched a charge, with firm footsteps and life-threatening. Only. Stop, stop. Let go of me, let go. Boss. The appearance of crying and wailing, tears and snot on his face, really has nothing to do with heroic. Of course, to Crocodile, no matter how the opponent behaves, he is just an ant, and he doesn't even have the spirit to let him take another look and say a word. Cut. As Crocodile spit out an icy word, a desolate aura that swept the dry land and swept the world suddenly rushed out in all directions. This momentum alone gives people a kind of dry and cracked skin, water evaporates, and the inhalation into the chest seems to be hot yellow sand. Even if you hold your breath, it seems to be turned into a mummy in the next second. Poof. The sword light flashed by, the pirates of the entire battlefield. Regardless of distance, no matter how strong or weak, including the high-stakes T-shirt who rushed in front of Crocodile, they all fell to the ground in an instant. The steel-like armor on his body became like white paper, and the water all over his body was useless. Group spike. All the pirates turned into several segments, and fell to the ground. If they had to say it, they were still a little humanoid, dead. After all, the paper armor and water prepared for them are not useless. Well, it's good to exercise once in a while. Crocodile, who caused this horrific scene, waved away the desert sword in his hand, took off his cigar and flicked the soot. Although these guys are a little smart, but it's just a little clever and puff. At this moment when the dust settled and the outcome was decided, the body of Gao Zunmu, John, and Lan Neon at Crocodile's feet suddenly slashed from the middle, and a vigorous figure rushed out. Crocodile of Cigars. The sword is as sharp as a horse, and the momentum is astonishing. Chu didn't show up before he started, but once he made a move, his murderous aura shot into the sky. The light of the knife, which was faster than lightning, was instantly close to Crocodile's skin, and the blood stained on it was enough to solidify the yellow sand. In a puff, a head with a big back comb rose into the sky. Okay. The voice of the middle-aged man who was calm without losing hockey made the raider's eyes flash, and the next second, the knife in his hand mercilessly slashed at the headless corpse in front of him, tearing Vice Admiral into two halves. But damn it, the sand crocodile is elementalized in advance. Tisk tisk, nice attack. In the rustling sound, the flying head and the split body turned into yellow sand and reassembled into Crocodile. Meanwhile, without a doubt, intact. Are you the mastermind behind this attack? Facing Crocodile's words, Roman, who was covered in blood, was not ready to answer. Because it's meaningless, all he needs to do is defeat the opponent, that's all. Soaring. The whole person turned into a crimson afterimage, and the long knife in Roman's hand slashed at Crocodile again. And this time, the other party looks tired of this useless thing, so. Clang. With a sharp crash, the knife in Roman's hand and the going hook in Crocodile's left hand collided fiercely, and the splashing sparks made Crocodile, who was dipping his cigar, raise his brows. An attack similar to my sand blade. That's right, Roman's knife has always had high-speed moving and rotating serrations, and Crocodile's sand blade is also high-speed moving sand. In principle, it cuts the enemy by high-speed friction. But that's the rest of the trick I played when I was 9, if you only had. The idle right hand waved forward, and a half-moon-shaped sand blade shrouded Roman. Whether it is speed or strength, or the timing of the shot, it is extremely good, as if it is natural. Even if the devil fruit is removed and the sand crocodile has no strength as a swordsman, Roman is the first to not believe it. Clang. With the melodious crashing sound, Roman raised his shield to block Crocodile's attack. Although the use of a shield gives people a sense of miscellaneous soldiers, the defensive power of the shield makes it run through the entire history of the development of human cold weapons, which has fully demonstrated its practicality. More than that, taking advantage of the moment when the two sides were closely entangled, the long knife in Roman's hand lifted up and stabbed Crocodile's chin, and the shield in the other hand suddenly blocked the other's sand knife. Completely a life for life dismissal. I don't know. Puff. Puff. Two soft clicks sounded at the same time. Crocodile's jaw was pierced into yellow sand, and Roman was split in half by the opponent's hook. It's now. At the moment when Crocodile's head was closed by the yellow sand again, the shield in Roman's hand, which was split in half, was aimed at the Shichibukai of Logia. The paper on the surface of the shield quickly peeled off, revealing a picture. In the painting is a big mouth like a barrel. Tun-tun, big squirt. Puff. The big mouth on the shield opened, and the turbulent sea immediately sprayed Crocodile all over his face, leaving this man unscathed since the start of the battle. Hockey's exposed man for the first time tasted the taste of Wolverine. How dare you? Got it. Clap la la. The body that was split turned into pieces of white paper and closed again. Roman turned his shield into a long sword, and attacked with two swords. As long as Crocodile does not use the water absorption ability of his right hand, then in the case of breaking the opponent's elementalization, and still using elementalization himself, can win. 7 steps or something. My knife is faster than your fruit ability. P.S. Since I didn't learn a chapter of 2,000 words from other people, please ask for a monthly ticket, *******. Chapter 71 Intelligence Blunder Ignore Intelligence. Puff. The broken paper knife in his hand was inserted into the ground, and Roman, who was half kneeling on the ground, twitched the corners of his mouth and spat out a few words in despair. From the new group. Armament katakana middle. Hockey. Oda mistaken me. Well, it's quite a bit of knowledge. The opposite Crocodile was holding a broken paper knife in his right hand, blood dripping from his mouth. And this is Roman's only result today. I recognize you as a mid-level powerhouse. In the face of Roman who hurt him, Crocodile was not angry, but showed a very interested expression. Now, surrender to me. I can spare your life. No threats, no intimidation. Crocodile speaks with absolute hockey and confidence. It made Roman almost kneel on the other foot. Totally lost. Whether it's fruit development, fists and swords, or armed with knowledge. I've tried my best, there's nothing to justify. Fortunately, the sand crocodile doesn't seem to plan to kill itself. Want to surrender. Leaving the green hills without worrying about no firewood. It is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge for 10 years. A man can bend and stretch. Fraud is also. During the battle, he was attacked by a lot of sand crocodiles entangled with armament hockey. Roman, who had seen this method for the first time, had broken limbs, ruptured internal organs, and had bone-deep wounds on his skin. If it weren't for his inhuman constitution, he could have gone to the morgue and waited for the stitches. Admit it, Roman. You have nothing to do with good guys at all. You don't even blink an eye as Alabasta dies. Even if Crocodile gets Pluto and bombards the whole world, you will at most watch the drama on the side. Clang. The broken sailor knife in his hand fell to the ground, causing Crocodile to frown. I refuse. Oh. Crocodile, who predicted the future with observation hockey, wasn't surprised, just took off his cigar and flicked the ashes. An assassin. When death is imminent, do you want to be a hero again? Hero. Roman put his hands on his knees and stood up with difficulty, cracking his mouth. Don't get me wrong, I never thought I was associated with the word hero, but I really envy Luffy, always being able to face everything with a cheerful mood. If it was him, even if he fell into the pirate den, he would still be able to maintain his true heart, right? I really envy Zoro, as long as you keep getting stronger, as long as you cut everything in front of you, never back down, never give up, and go to the world's #1 throne. I really envy Nami, a 10-year-old girl will carry the lives of everyone in her hometown. How strong is this? If it was me, I would have long since disappeared without a trace. Sorry, I'm already on someone else's boat. The scarred Roman opened his arms and faced Crocodile with a smile. Although I'm not a good person, at least let me be more handsome when I leave. Humph. Another idiot bound by emotions. Crocodile was irritable, as if seeing himself in the past. Finish you. Dead Buckthorn's sand gun. Poof. As Crocodile stomped lightly, a thick sand gun suddenly stabbed out from the ground, piercing Roman instantly in the face. Hanging high in the air, like a flag. That's what's going on, trying to challenge me. Crocodile ended the assassination with domineering words, and turned and left decisively. Robin, who had been watching the play, looked at the challenger with his hands on the sand gun with his head lowered, and shook his head regretfully. What a pity, obviously someone with a great future. Why did he come here at such a young age and give his life? Ah, it's so hot. As a rubber fruit person, Luffy has a weak fire attribute. The scorching desert sun almost didn't bake him into a puddle of ooze, sticking his tongue out with a stick, and relying on a small jug of water in his chest to last until now. After you beat that sand crocodile, you must invite us to eat until we can. Facing Luffy's words, Vivi nodded vigorously. Of course, no. Snapped. Nami, what's wrong with you? It's too tiring. Could it be heat stroke? Facing the concern of everyone in the straw hats, Nami, who was sitting in the scorching desert, just covered her mouth and shook her head, letting a little tear fall into the yellow sand and disappear instantly. Because in her hands, the book titled, The Ultimate Art of Thieves, was automatically spread out, and lines of text appeared on it. Target, Crocodile, age 44, height 253 centimeters, Logia rustling fruit ability. The target has Logia's passive skill, elementalization, and cannot be hit by normal attacks. Under normal conditions, armament hockey or seastone weapons are required to crack. The known combat skills are Shalan, forming a sand storm in the hand, which can control the direction of its travel. As the storm's existence time continues to increase, the formed sand blade can easily cut rocks, and ordinary iron armor cannot stop it. Arc moon-shaped sand dune, a sand blade that turns its arm into a crescent shape and slashes the enemy. Only the sand blade touches the body without causing damage. It is a sand blade that will absorb all the water once it is slashed by the sand blade. The terrifying move will eventually collapse and become a mummy that lacks moisture. Very dangerous, close combat needs to be cautious. Desert sword, a machete formed by extreme compression of golden sand, can easily cut through metal, and it is as sharp as an ordinary big knife. Speculator have other forms. Using a lot of water can suppress the target's elementalization, but it will be broken by the target's water absorption ability. When using the right hand to absorb water, the target will have a short pause, and the opponent can be prevented from launching water absorption by continuous suppressing attacks. Ability. When the opponent underestimates the enemy, you can try the above tactics. Attention. The opponent has the strength of a swordsman. It does not match the information, and it is extremely dangerous to cooperate with the desert sword. Melee must be cautious. Attention. The opponent has observation hockey. It is extremely inconsistent with the information. It is presumed to be advanced. Cancel all battle plans. Cancel. Attention. The other party has armament hockey, and the elementalization is captured. Attention. The other party has the ability to fly, and the speed is far. No more. The text in the book came to an abrupt end here. There was only a white space behind, leaving everyone in the Straw Hats group silent for a while. Although they are not so clear about this Roman fruit creation, but more and more scribbled handwriting, more and more short words, can clearly explain a problem. Wow. As the pages of the book were automatically turned over without wind, a line of words written on it at an unknown time appeared in the eyes of everyone. If you see this, forget it. Let's get down to business. In the current situation, there is actually the easiest way. Immediately notify the nearby Marine base, contact the World Government Intelligence Agency CP, and tell them that the sand crocodile is fighting the Pluto idea. It can even reveal Pluto's instructions. That is, the historical text stone tablet is in the tomb of Vivi's family. Believe me, there will be a lot of masters in no time. even Marine Admiral will bring justice and beat Crocodile to the ground. All crises will be wiped out. Congratulations, congratulations. Of course. The consequence of this is that the world government will focus on Alabasta, and the consequences may not be much better than the success of the sand crocodile. But, if you insist on going, I recommend using my method. Katakana middle. Well, the days I sailed with you were the happiest time I came to this world, so. You bastards who can't even beat me. Just do as I say. Who do you think you are? Child of Destiny. World protagonist. Still. Sorry, that's all I want to say. Tokvich, Roman. Stay. It seems that Roman has already. Sanji silently threw the cigarette on the ground, and then stepped on the cigarette he just took a puff into the yellow sand. Then wheel. He glanced up at Luffy at the front of the line. This is also something that can't be helped. The sea is windy and waves are strong, and it is normal for people to die. It's not a fairy tale after all. Keep going. Luffy dropped the stick in his hand and pressed the straw hat above his head. The information in front of them, which was clearly sent with life, reminded them between the lines of how powerful the enemy they were about to face was. I didn't hear anything. All I know is, I'm going to beat that bastard Fisha crocodile. Luffy turned around abruptly, with a face that was smothered in anger. And Roman, if he dares to sneak away alone, I will beat him too. Ah, this. Are you ready to whip the corpse? When it should be very sad, Luffy's words made everyone not know what expression to use to face it. Luffy is right. The first to react was Nami, who wiped her face with the back of her hand, and she was the first to cheer up. Roman must be all right. Saying that, she raised the ultimate art of a thief in her hands. Don't forget, this is something created by Roman's ability. As long as this book is still running normally, it means that Roman as the maker is still alive. Well. Yeah, Paramesha's creation as long as the owner doesn't. Usopp covered his mouth and tilted it to the side, not uttering the unpleasant words behind him. HMPH. Zoro raised an eyebrow. Roman is not a man of that level. Having said that, Vivi finally let go of his whitish palm gripping the hilt of the knife. Hey. In a few words, Luffy had only run to a small spot. Follow up with you. Let's go. Let's go to the rain and beat up the flying sand crocodile. Rescue Roman. Holding the book in her arms tightly, Nami didn't dare to think about what would happen if the book suddenly invalidated. P.S. This shouldn't be considered an abuser, right? Which manga protagonist has never been defeated? By the way, you can guess how Roman escaped from the dead. I hinted at it earlier. Chapter 72 Fall into a Trap Arrogant Crocodile. Stop, don't run. This is the smoking gun, White Hunter, smoker with 2 cigars in his mouth. Ah, why is there a marine here too? Luffy's face collapsed, his rubber fruit ability was a little weak in front of the opponent's smoke fruit. How do I know? Just run away. This is Usopp, who is very confident in running away, a fierce man whose 2 feet can catch up with a cheetah. Stop, Roronoa Zoro. This is Marine Sergeant Tashigi with glasses. Ah, don't let me see your face. Facing Zoro's words, the Marine Beauty swordsman was furious. Are you looking down on me? Damn green algae head, what have you done to the beautiful Miss Marine? This is Sanji whose, gentlemen, spirit begins to flare up. Please be serious, we're running away. Nami covered her forehead, speechless. Why do I have to be chased even as a reindeer? Roman was away, and Nami helped him spit out the groove. Chopper, you remembered that you are a reindeer at this time. Didn't you always emphasize that you are a human reindeer? Humans are terrible, I want to be a reindeer. This is Chopper who transformed into a reindeer and ran on all fours with luggage on his back. In addition to friendship and adventure, the life of a pirate also includes chased by marine. The scorching sun is shining, and 2 groups of people are running wild in the desert. The Straw Hats were fleeing in front, and the Marine soldiers led by Smoker were chasing closely behind, but running and running, the Marines began to fall behind out of breath. Smoker's brows jumped when he turned around. A group of rice buckets can't even outrun the pirates. What do you want? Look, the rain is ahead. The outline of a building and an oasis appeared on the horizon, shocking the spirit of the Straw Hats, and the collective began to accelerate. Smoker, who was watching behind him, choked on his lungs with a puff of old smoke. These pirates, are your physical abilities so exaggerated? I'll go after it first, and you can catch up by yourself. This teammate can't take it. Woohoo. Smoker's lower body turned into white smoke and rose into the air, galloping forward in a sliding posture. Let everyone in the Straw Hats be shocked. Don't come here. Run away, run away. Wait a minute, where's that bastard alligator? Under the astonished gazes of the out-of-the-ordinary pirates in twos and threes in the suburbs, who were stunned by Roman, several teenagers and girls ran all the way, followed by a smoking ability. Further away, a group of Marines moved weakly towards this side. Pace. This. The tallest building in the city is, as the guide, Vivi quickly explained to everyone, there is a circle of pools around it, and the appearance is a huge pyramid shape with a huge banana crocodile carved on it. It is very easy to identify. All right then, let's go there and gather. Following Luffy's order, everyone consciously moved away from him. No way, Luffy is too sarcastic. Basically, every place you go is the first main force to open a monster, for example now. Stop, Straw Hat. Sure enough, Smoker only saw Luffy, much to the relief of the scattered Straw Hats. But be careful, this is the home base of the Baroque works, if you get caught. Zoro glanced at the guys with knives and guns in the streets and alleys, and the portraits in their hands. Although the Straw Hats have done a certain amount of camouflage, it is completely unrealistic to try to deceive these professionals. It's too late, but anyway, they were going to make a big fuss and overturn each other's boss. It doesn't matter if it was discovered or not. Just make a way out. Oh, Vivi broke into the city with a group of pirates. Yes, there was a message from the squadron leader just now. Below the giant casino called the Rain Feast, in a luxurious room in the lake, Crocodile heard Nico Robin's report, proudly issue. Ha 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 ha. Good welcome to these silly little mice. Yes. Nicole Robin, wearing a long white sweater, nodded. Personally, she doesn't hate the Straw Hat Pirates. But some things are not a question of whether to hate or not, but a question of how to survive. White Snake. The extending white smoke suddenly caught Luffy, who jumped into the air, trapping him firmly. Although Luffy couldn't follow Roman's way to create a strong wind to blow away the opponent, he had already considered ways to deal with it. Rubber. Luffy took a sharp breath. Balloons. Inflate. The suddenly expanding body shook away the smoke that bound him, and Luffy took the opportunity to jump to the tallest building in the city. People glanced in midair and saw Zoro, who had overturned a group of fighters, and Nami and Usopp, who were chased by a group of fighters. They were all running towards the tallest building in the city, Rain Banquet. Snapped. Luffy, who fell from the sky, startled a group of passers-by, and then do what to do. After all, this is the site of the dignified Shichibukai, Sand Crocodile, who would dare to make trouble here? The only end is to be made into a mummy. So, Sand Crocodile, you come out for me. In the face of Luffy, who rushed into the lobby and shouted, everyone in the casino turned a blind eye and continued to play. Let Nami, who rushed in from behind, give him a punch. This is the other party's base camp. What do you mean by shouting like that? Yeah, and I don't even know what that Sand Crocodile looks like. Usopp chimed in, then. Sand Crocodile, Vivi, X2. Facing the shouting Luffy and Usopp, Nami Zoro covered their foreheads speechless. Roman's information said that the other party is a tall 253 centimeters, middle-aged man with a golden hook in his left hand. With these two pieces of information, it is not difficult to find the other party. Wait a minute, sir. Marine is forbidden to enter. The noise behind them made Luffy and the others turn their heads, and then they saw Smoker, the white hunter, throw off the casino guard and rush in. It's the old Smoker. Run. Luffy and the others started running around subconsciously, but this is a casino after all, so where can they run to? Welcome, welcome. Everyone, please. In front of a red carpet avenue, there are staff in suits on both sides. Glamorous dancers bow at the same time to invite. At the end of the red carpet is a gorgeous door with the 3 letters, VIP, carved on it. Crocodile, Luffy spearheaded angrily, do you mean to bring the horse over? Fight head on. Zoro also had high fighting spirit, is he still a sensible bastard? Wait, Nami instinctively felt that something was wrong, they and each other were enemies. No reason. VIP special treatment. Smoker in the back took a deep breath of his cigar. What's your relationship with Sand Crocodile? Why are you hanging out with the Princess of Alabasta? Forget it. Colonel Marine, codenamed White Hunter, followed Luffy and the others into the VIP passage. I'll send you all to prison. Click. As soon as the screen turned, several people were already squatting in the cage and staring at each other. Ah, what a clever trap. Luffy suddenly realized. That's right, there's nothing you can do about it. Usopp also nodded. You bunch of idiots. Nami was furious. How dare you say that if you ran into someone else's trap? Simply put, this VIP channel is a trap. And Luffy, S-Group even Smoker, who was chasing after him, was speechless. Why did Colonel Marine, who has been fighting for a long time, suddenly fall into such a simple trap when his IQ suddenly returned to 0? It must be the Straw Hat's fault. Why can't I lift my strength since just now? Luffy walked to the cage subconsciously, and as soon as he touched the iron cage, he immediately slid down like noodles. In this case, Nami was startled and pulled Luffy up. As soon as he got out of the cage, Luffy seemed to regain his strength. Is it sea stone? Oh. The silent Smoker looked at Nami unexpectedly. The little girl is a little knowledgeable, and she actually knows about sea stone. It's a pity. Judging from his expression, he almost said, Ching Ben beautiful, how can you be a thief? Written on the face. This is bad. Nami's face changed. Luffy was a power user, and the rogue's extreme art in her hand was also a power creation. Because the essence of the best of thieves is a part of Roman, with the characteristics of alive, it will also be suppressed by this cage. And more importantly, in this case, she can't even judge whether Roman is still. It doesn't matter. Smoker stood up and drew 10 weapons from his back. I'll kill you all right here. Clang. Then you can give it a try. As soon as the thumb is pressed, the word hideout in his hand is in a state of being unsheathed at any time. In the cage, swords were drawn, at this time. Save your energy. A flat middle-aged voice with hockey interrupted the confrontation between Smoker and Zoro. Because you two will go back to the West soon, you have to get along well. It was a tall middle-aged man, wearing an orange plaid long-sleeved shirt with a black fur coat over it. He has a big back, a long scar on his face, an earring in his right ear, a cigar in his mouth, and a gold hook in his left hand. The same cigar doesn't leave his body, but unlike Smoker, who looks like a gangster, this man gives off the demeanor of a top boss in the underground world. Sand Crocodile. Crocodile. That's the guy. Almost instantly, Luffy and others recognized the identity of this man. Even Nami, who had been suppressing herself, suddenly rushed to the side of the iron cage and looked at the man with Erlang's legs crossed. Where's Roman? You locked Roman in there. Roman. Tilt his head. Crocodile glanced contemptuously at the excited Nami in the cage. Who is that? He was beaten by you. Ha. As soon as Nami's words came out, she was interrupted by a sneer. No-name soldier, I killed him casually. What did you say? Asshole. Chong. Facing the instantly furious Straw Hats, Crocodile just played the cigar calmly. I'm just telling the truth. The eyes of the man named Crocodile were indifferent. Do you remember how many slices of bread you eat every day? P.S. Thanks for the support of book friends by the way, ask for a ticket. Chapter 73 Cage of Despair Hope Key. Bastard alligator. Luffy, who suddenly jumped to the side of the cage, just roared. I'm going to fly you. Hey, they told you not to touch the cage. Crocodile just sneered at Luffy, who was sliding down like noodles. That's it. Such an idiot actually killed the cadre in the Baroque Works room that he sent out, and killed him all the way here. As a result, a simple trap wiped them all out. Thanks to myself, I also prepared the interlocking, killing intent, to be ready, before they even started, the other party fell. Really boring. I'll kill you, but it will take a while. I have sent my partner to invite a VIP to come. Seeing that years of planning will be successful, my hard work will finally bloom and bear fruit. Crocodile doesn't mind taking a moment to appreciate the tragic wailing of his opponents, otherwise. No one applauds such a delicate plan, isn't it, Ginny Nightwalk? Finally, all the conditions have been gathered. Pluto is about to fall into his hands. Crocodile, who was sitting in the hall, was also a little dazed for a while. After he had that ancient weapon, how should he use it? Openly challenge the world government? Or take off that man's head? Crocodile. A roar pulled Sand Crocodile back from the sigh of recalling the great years. The Princess of Alabasta, the blue-haired girl Vivi, has already rushed towards him. The weapon, Peacock Chain, in his hand is spinning at a high speed, accumulating considerable strength and speed. Then, Peacock Chain saw. Poof. The peacock feathers connected end to end like a long whip suddenly slashed Crocodile sitting in the hall, and instantly slashed his head and the chair behind him and flew out. But, Shashasha. Crocodile, who was headed by a stroke, instantly collapsed into yellow sand, and then gathered behind Vivi into a tall man with black fur. Snapped. The broad palm covered Vivi's face from behind, and at the same time it was Crocodile's domineering voice behind him. As the princess of this country, you don't know about my Sasha fruit ability, right? The tall man bent down, and a cold voice sounded in Vivi's ears. Want to be a mummy? Snapped. As Crocodile let go, Vivi fell to the ground. It's not that she is afraid, it's just that the power level gap between the two is so great that it can only be described as despair. Sit down, Vivi. No, Miss Wednesday. It's hard for you to go undercover to my organization, and to find out the truth bit by bit. It's a pity that your strength doesn't kill me, you even hurt a hair. Sand Crocodile. Vivi, who got up from the ground, stared at the tall man in front of her, the hero of this country, the legal pirate of the government, the behind-the-scenes messenger of all disasters, the one who she can't wait to kill. But where's Roman? What did you do to Roman? Katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot. It's strange. Crocodile, who pulled a chair bold and grandiose and sat down, tilted his head to look at the woman who had just entered the door. The partner he sent to invite Vivi, Nicole Robin, codename Miss All Sunday. Have I taken down some sort of Roman mob lately? Miss All Sundays. No, boss. Robin, wearing a white cowboy hat, shook his head, letting Vivi on the ground and everyone in the caged straw hats breathe a sigh of relief. However, if I'm not mistaken. Robin's words changed, and everyone's hearts were instantly lifted. The juvenile capable man you killed yesterday, boss, should be the Roman in their mouths. Boom. You're lying. The whole person threw himself on the iron cage, and Luffy, who was suppressed by Seastone-like Parkinson's syndrome, bit the railing with his teeth to prevent himself from falling. Muffled words echoed in the hall. Roman is definitely not a man who would fall in such a place. Ha 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 ha. Crocodile, who was laughing loudly, stood up and rubbed his forehead. So you were talking about the assassin yesterday. Not bad, Princess Vivi. You can actually find such a talented young man to work for you. I am impressed by you. Saying that, Crocodile spread out his right hand, and there was a fresh scar in his palm. It really deserves an award for hurting me. This is the first time I've been hurt in the last 5 years, no, in 10 years. Impossible, Roman. Vivi bit her lip tightly, and the bloodshot remained unresponsive. Because she is the one who doesn't want the news the most. Not only was she unknowingly, she had already regarded everyone in the Straw Hats as her partner. More importantly, when Roman, who has always emphasized how powerful Crocodile is, left alone, Vivi had already decided that the other party was ready to stay out of it. However, the reality is... Clang! A broken sailor knife was thrown on the floor, and the special paper weapon no doubt showed the identity of its former owner. I originally wanted to keep the trophies. Crocodile flicked the soot. I'll give it back to you now with great mercy. It's impossible. Cluck cluck. The sound of teeth rubbing against steel. Clang. The katana slashed in vain on the cage and spat out sparks. Do not. And Vivi, who was trying to stand up, fell to the ground and muttered to himself. I'm sorry, it's all because of me. I want to personally apologize to him. That's a pity. Crocodile tilted his head, mockingly. When you go down, run fast and maybe catch the guy. You. Sand Crocodile. No, this is a devil. Ah, yes, and you. Crocodile was too lazy to look at Vivi on the ground, and turned to look at Luffy, who was hanging from the cage with his teeth gritted against the railing, with a trace of displeasure in his contempt. Are you the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates? What kind of character I thought it was, now it seems to be nothing more than an incomprehensible rubbish. Originally, I admired that little guy named Roman, who planned such a clever assassination and could still hurt me. Even I would like to bring such a talent under my command, but... Sand Crocodile looked down at Luffy, who was clenching the railing with his teeth and unwilling to fall, and became more and more agitated. That guy actually rejected me because of an idiot captain like you. What the hell did you put Roman? Facing Luffy's questioning, Crocodile just raised his chin grimly. I beat him to a crippled limb. Poof. I pierced him with a sand gun. PFF'd. The corpses were taken by vultures. PFF'd. Shut me up. Luffy, who was clenching the iron railing, glared at the man with the name, Shichibukai, in front of him. His teeth were biting out blood. Amidst the violent beating of his heart, the Straw Hat Boy squirmed his lips and let out a low growl. I'm going to kill. Poor RTILY. A strange voice interrupted the slaughtering atmosphere in the hall, and also caused a heart-wrenching momentum that slowly rose from Luffy's body to suddenly stop. Because next to the code name, Miss All Sunday, the intellectual beauty whose real name is Nicole Robin took out one little phone bug. The phone bug can't make overseas calls and doesn't mimic the appearance of the person on the other side of the phone. There is also the risk of being eavesdropped, but at the same time it does not sell the caller's image. So-called as a secret organization, the Baroque Works Room has a lot of use of this phone bug. Moses. Cough, is this a connection? In the quiet hall, a voice familiar to the Straw Hats came from the phone bug, the voice belonging to Chef Sanji. Huh, what's this? Before Crocodile could finish speaking, a beating voice rang from the other side of the phone bug. This is a poop restaurant. In an instant, Crocodile's face darkened. Because he has already reacted, The guy opposite the phone bug is the guy who fooled himself in the name of Mr. Point 3 in Little Garden. And also, thank you for the Alabasta permanent pointer, it works great. Visible to the naked eye, Crocodile's anger began to rise. Think of him being wise and martial, controlling the overall situation, and playing a country in the palm of his hand, what a heroic figure. Actually on the opposite side. Who are you? In the face of Crocodile, whose words were full of cold and murderous intent, the phone bug was still in a casual and provocative tone. You can call me Mr. Prince. Mr. Prince, wrote it down, I will kill your whole family when I pull out my hands. As Crocodile said, Admiral can't keep you. Where are you now? Facing Crocodile's words, the phone bug answered tepidly. I can't say that, if you say you're going to kill me, right? However, whether you can kill me is another question. I'm not an idiot, just tell me the information casually. It was when I was in Little Garden, and the misunderstanding was that Crocodile of Mr. 3 was careless. The plan was leaked to the Straw Hats. Although there are already spoilers for Roman, Kurodal himself is not aware of it. So, I'm different from you, Mr. Zero. Anger. Taking a deep breath of cold air, Crocodile's anger has broken through the sky. Here. At this moment, the voice of another person suddenly appeared in the phone bug, followed by the screeching of bullets and fighting. After a chaotic murmur. Katakana middle. Katakana middle. Katakana middle. Damn katakana middle. Katakana middle. Hey. Is this phone bug connected? Hey, who is the cadre? The other side of the phone bug was replaced by an exasperated voice. I'm Squadron Captain Bank, this guy is too strong, we need support. Repeat, we need. Where are you? Facing Crocodile's unquestionable question, the opposite instinct answers. We are at the main entrance of the Casino Rain Banquet. Wait a minute, who is your voice? Snapped. Hanging up the phone bug, Crocodile walked straight to the door. Let's go, let's see how capable this guy who dares to provoke me is. After speaking, he turned to look at everyone in the hall and took out a key. Here's the key to that cage. Miss Wednesday, do you like to gamble? Facing the dazed Vivi, Crocodile snapped his fingers, and a trap was drawn on the floor of the hall, revealing the pool below and the giant beast cruising in it, Banana Crocodile. Each is a ferocious sea beast weighing more than 10 tons. Thump. The key in his hand crossed a parabola and fell into the pool, landing in a group of banana crocodiles. Come on, while I'm going to bring that Mr. Prince. Crocodile, who walked to the door, turned around and looked at Vivi who was sitting on the ground with a wicked expression. Dive into a pool full of banana crocodiles and fish out the keys to save your pirate friends. Let's leave immediately to stop the upcoming decisive battle between the King's army and the rebel army. It's all up to you to choose. Although the success rate of both options is less than 1 in 10,000. Crocodile in a black fur coat laughed and walked out, followed by Nicole Robin in a white trench coat. That's all that's left. Wait a minute, I'm going to save. Wait. Facing Vivi who was ready to jump into the pool full of giant sea beasts, Nami, who had been silent, raised her hand to stop her. Then, clang. Nami pulled out the third-generation Onito from Zoro's waist next to her and wiped it on her wrist, blood splashing. Let Zoro, who was about to say something, dare not speak. Hey, Nami, don't think too much. Just as Usopp hurriedly took out all kinds of props to find bandages, Nami had calmly opened the third page of The Ultimate Art of a Thief in her hand, and sprinkled her own blood on the picture that looked like an iron bucket. Big mouth. I didn't think about it. Nami looked at the book in her hand seriously, and prayed silently in her heart, eat. Done. On the screen, Wapple's Tun ability is activated, and Nami's blood is absorbed into it, making Nami a joy. Without hesitation, she turned her head to look at the people in the cage. Come here and let the blood. No matter what, everyone still stabbed the wrist honestly. Anyway, With their constitution, a few pounds of blood or drizzled smoker with a stinky face also joined the ranks of cutting his wrists. As the blood was constantly being eaten by the tuning ability, on the third page, Nami finally regained the feeling of activating the ability from this book, The Ultimate Art of a Thief. Really? Because Roman Reigns must be in a very poor state now, coupled with being isolated by the seastone cage. This book has no stamina to activate any abilities, but if you use swallowing pages to devour blood to provide physical strength, you can use the 3-page abilities in this book normally, as well as paper dance, keys. Ding! A key made of paper fell into Nami's hands, and she groped around as she inserted her backhand into the keyhole. Click. Oh, free. Finally out. Be quiet, you two. Under Vivi's delighted gaze, Nami, who walked out of the prison, came to the broken sailor knife, picked it up and placed it on, The Art of a Thief. Paper dance, paper cranes. As the paper was deformed and folded, a paper crane full of scars appeared in Nami's hand. Take me to your master. Chapter 74 Roman beats Luffy to meet the enemy. So cold. So dark. So quiet. Here. The stomach is pierced, and there is a faint pulse. Doctor. Where is the doctor? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot ah. I am a doctor. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Very familiar voice. Chopper, how's it going? Epinephrine, max injection ready for blood transfusion. Who's blood type X? Me. A more familiar voice. It's incredible, the body's function is slowly recovering, it can save. Bump. In the darkness, the familiar anxious voice made the confused Roman slowly come back to his senses. Open your eyes to a circle of familiar faces and surprised cheers. Roman. Excellent. Out of danger. Woo, scared us to death. I am. Roman blinked, and the image and sound in front of him became completely clear. I'm not dead. This is impossible. It's a miracle, Mr. Roman. Chopper wiped the sweat from his forehead, and this little reindeer was the only one in the Straw Hat group who would call Roman by his honorary title. Your stomach is completely penetrated, but most of the vital organs are not damaged too much. The damaged area has also been sutured. I'm really not dead. Roman, who had just woken up, was completely stunned, almost thinking that he had actually arrived in the underworld. Because this is not scientific at all. What does it mean that most of the vital organs are not damaged too much? Roman is fighting against Crocodile, not Hawkeye. And who is Crocodile now? Ruthless and ruthless. A heroic figure who will be killed immediately by his subordinates who are ineffective in doing things. Crocodile would never have done something like mercy, until Marianu, that is, Miss Going Joe, took someone to rescue him from prison and reminded him of the word partner, after a long absence. And at the level of the opponent's high-level observation hockey, Roman has no means to hide from Crocodile and pretend to be dead. He tilted his head and looked at the tattered clothes beside him. It was Roman's own coat, covered with blood and holes, and there was a faintly recognizable white graffiti on it. The whiteness of mercy. Miss Going Joe's color ability, able to interfere with other creatures, killing intent, towards the wielder. That little girl's ability can hit the soul directly. In the future, a trick, Rainbow of Dreams, will make all Baroque works cadres face their true hearts, and even make Crocodile in prison recall his dream of One Piece King of Pirates. It was her. We evened out. Recalling the words when the little girl left, Roman twitched the corners of his mouth. Huh, what is this? Do good people have good rewards? Okay, alright, Roman has woken up, everyone dispersed. As Chopper drove away, Roman turned his head to look around. In addition to Zoro and Sanji who were relieved, Vivi and Usopp with tears on their faces, Nami who smiled at him with blood vessels in their wrists, and Luffy was sitting in front with his back to the crowd. Ah, Luffy must be pissed. Maybe I'm about to be hit with. Bang. His cheeks went numb, and the world in Roman's eyes shook violently, mixed with a rush of commotion. Luffy, what are you doing? Hold him. The wound is open. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. You put. What do you think your partner is? Roman. A roar drowned out all the voices, and Roman, who had been punched in the face, lay down and turned his head, only to see Luffy's bloodshot eyes. Roman, you're smarter than me and know a lot of things I don't know. But you don't even know what a partner is. Do you think that in the face of a strong enemy, you will be called a partner if you rush up and do your best? Even if you die, you can say casually, look, I've done my best, so you should run away, right? Asshole. You don't treat us as partners at all. If it weren't for the angry Luffy being held between Zoro and Sanji's arms, he would be ready to rush up to give Roman a few punches. You're great when you're alone. Great. You're wrong. You should fight for our lives together. This is the partner. Be quiet. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Luffy. You're right. It's my traverser who is wrong. Even if there are no plugins, what golden fingers. Roman's heart is still lurking. The pride belongs to the traverser, or arrogance. Just aboriginal, just a few plot characters, just a little. I know your abilities, I know your weaknesses, I know your past, present, and future. So, no matter what it is, I will definitely be able to figure out a way. As for Luffy, Zoro, Nami, you just need to call 666 on the side and see how I solve all the boos beautifully. Even if I lose, die, it doesn't matter, these are also in my calculation. I am a dignified traveler, that's how it is. Arrogant. Madness. That's right. Roman sighed, inexplicably remembered the old ship doctor in Twin Gorge who learned that he was studying hockey in private, gave Roman a deep look and said, you are really arrogant. Now it seems. I'm too arrogant. He thought about solving everything by himself, and didn't consider Luffy's feelings at all. What he said was for the sake of his partner, but he was just self-motivated. Crackle. What are you doing? Don't get up, bastard. The wound exploded. Under the horrified and worried eyes of others, Roman turned over and sat up, the bandage on his waist oozing red again. But still couldn't stop Roman from bending over to the crowd, bowing his head, and apologizing. Sorry, Luffy, everyone. What I've done is not worthy of being a partner. At this moment, Roman suddenly froze. And Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji all turned their heads to look in the direction they were coming from. And Roman finally noticed that he and everyone in the straw hats were sitting on top of a giant crab. They were speeding through the desert, and in the distance was the outline of a vanishing city. This is. The seriously injured Roman twitched the corners of his mouth. Even though he didn't see the figure, there was no doubt about this savage aura that swept the earth like a sandstorm and devoured everything to wither. It was the sand crocodile who caught up. Zoro and Sanji let Luffy go and stood up one by one. Just let us be here. Brush. A figure had already leapt down from the top of the crab's head 2 steps ahead of them, and turned to look at everyone in midair. You go first. Luffy. The other party is a sand crocodile. Chopper, keep going. Facing Zoro's words, Chopper nodded and communicated with the giant crab that everyone was riding. But even Roman. Leave it to Luffy. Zoro grabbed Vivi, who was about to jump down. That's his fight. We're responsible for getting you safely to Alabasta, the capital of Alabasta. Luffy is strong. Don't worry. Is this the difference between us? Roman, who was lying down again, closed his eyes. Luffy was fighting alone with everyone's blessing and trust, and he just worried everyone. Cut. When the Traversers are on this point, they really pull over. Will they be kicked out of the group by the Traversers Alliance? But. Wow. In Roman's open palm, a piece of white paper quickly formed the shape of a paper crane, and then also glide down from the giant crab. Boss, Princess Vivi has escaped. Robin, who was wearing a white trench coat, looked at the Straw Hat group that was passing away in the desert, with a smile on his face, which made it impossible to see his true thoughts. The cadres are all gathering in Albana and informing them to intercept. As for you. Crocodile in a black fur coat looked at the boy with a straw hat standing in front of him with indescribable disgust. Straw Hat, the one who challenges my patience. That girl Vivi. I can't help myself and I'm trying to help others. It makes me angry. That idiot Roman. Always thinking about fighting everything by myself makes me angry. Oh, it doesn't look like you're that stupid. Crocodile watched Luffy stand up, cocking his chin arrogantly. From the new group. So smart people shouldn't be dealing with these emotional guys. You think so too? No. Luffy took a stance, punched forward, and clenched his waist. I'm going to beat you up. This way they don't have to think about these messy issues. There's a kind of meow. A fist widened rapidly in Crocodile's pupils, interrupting his next words. Puff. Yellow sand splashed, and his head burst. P.S. Actually, I am going to post 2 chapters together. After all, this chapter Roman was beaten, and I can't get up again. Tears. I'm afraid that it won't affect your mood. The next chapter will be the real change. Since you urged, I will send first. Chapter 75 The Power of Nature Counterhorn. Another emotionally bound idiot. With fists alone, of course, Crocodile can't be hurt at all. He doesn't even need to use observation hockey, it doesn't matter if he stands up and hits Luffy. Kuhahahaha, when you meet others, you are willing to die for others. Whether it's the Straw Hat boy in front of me, or the guy called Roman. I've seen a lot of you idiots. Then, Luffy, who moved his fist, asked back. Aren't you an idiot? Let's go, here, S2. Puff. You guys. Sorry, Captain, we just want to live. In an instant, the memories that he had sworn to forget flooded into his heart, making the man named Crocodile gloomy. Who wasn't a dumb when he was young? He. The intellectual beauty Robin next to him chuckled, making Crocodile even more embarrassed. Do you want to die too? Nicole Robin. If you want to kill me. Robin, wearing a white cowboy hat, waved his hand indifferently. Please. After speaking, Robin turned around and spread his hands. Also, didn't you and I have an appointment to call me by that name? Boss. Miss. All Sunday, are you going there? Faced with Crocodile's question, Robin didn't look back. Albana, I'm going one step ahead. Seeing that Nico Robin walked cleanly, Crocodile shook his head. You can never take a person who is not afraid of death and has nothing. This woman is really. But now is not the time to think about this. As Crocodile spreads out his palm, the flying yellow sand condenses, compresses and deforms in his hand, and then. Puff. An hourglass was created and dropped at Luffy's feet. The fine sand in the hourglass keeps flowing down, representing the passage of time. 3 minutes for you. Crocodile, flicking the ash with his middle finger, pointed his index finger at the hourglass at Luffy's feet. When the time passes, I will not accompany you. Any comments? Facing Crocodile's hockey and confident words, Luffy moved his arms. No. Rubber. In the stride, Luffy attacked first. Gun. Fist flashed, and attacked Crocodile with a wild cracking sound. But this kind of straightforward attack, for Crocodile, was only able to dodge with a tilt of Vivi's head. At the same time, he also charged towards Luffy, and his body turned into yellow sand during the charge. In the next instant, he appeared in front of Luffy, and the huge golden hook in his left hand swept towards Luffy mercilessly. Wow! The upper body slammed back with an iron waist, and Luffy narrowly escaped Crocodile's attack, causing the Shichibukai to let out an unexpected, yo. Not bad, he was actually the one who had mastered observation hockey, for the first time. Rubber. And Luffy, who escaped Crocodile's move, Magpie in Thunder Hall, rolled back and kicked at the same time. Whip. Puff. This move volleyed back to the horse's leg and instantly kicked the back of Crocodile, who passed by a huge hole. But the flying yellow sand clearly explained. The ugly words are ahead, Straw Hat Boy. An attack like yours will never be possible. Rubber. Machine gun. Puff puff. The dense shadows of fists fell on Crocodile like cannonballs, and the terrifying high speed of dozens of punches in 1 second instantly beat the tall Crocodile into a hornet's nest. But it's useless, no matter how many times I come back. Bazooka. Before Crocodile finished speaking, Luffy's hands had already hit his chest hard, causing his chest to burst suddenly, and the yellow sand flew in all directions. And on his back, the washbasin-sized cavity flew away with the force of the explosion, instantly smashing him into 2 pieces. It's useless. Rubber. Tomahawk. The feet that suddenly stretched to the sky fell suddenly, with the momentum of splitting mountains and breaking mountains, and instantly smashed Crocodile to slag. Then, bang bang bang. I stomp, stomp, stomp. Is it broken, you sand crocodile? I said, behind Luffy, who stepped on the yellow sand under his feet. The yellow sand quietly formed Crocodile's figure. Not to mention hurting him in the slightest, even the cigar in his mouth was exactly the same as before the fight. Logia was born with the ability to elementalize her clothes, weapons, and even cigarettes. A low-level rubber fruit person like you can't possibly win, Bang. However, Luffy's already lightning-fast turn was a punch, leaving Crocodile unable to finish a word since the start of the fight. Win-woo, what the hell are you talking about? Facing the dazed Luffy, Crocodile had a few blue veins jumping out of his head, and he felt the blood pressure rise after a long time. Go to hell. He finally gave up his mouth cannons and opened up. At that time, I stood in front of the island-eating monster, pointed at the monster as terrifying as the mainland and said, "You can't stop the footsteps of the Seaman." 1003. 1004. Holding the handle of the knife with one hand and a camel squatting on the scabbard, Zoro kept doing weightlifting exercises. Hey, you! Leave them alone, Nami. Sanji, who took out another cigarette and lit it, waved his hand. They just need to divert their attention. What a fool. This time it's a Shichibukai class. Hey, if you have anything to say, just say it. Facing Zoro with a gloomy face, Sanji just calmly told the truth. Okay, I'll say it. Are you afraid that Luffy will lose? Am I afraid? You curled eyebrows. You green algae head. Bang, bang. Okay, what time is it? You don't have to fight inside. One punch knocked the 2 nervous idiots over, and Nami helplessly rubbed her forehead. The dense cigarette butts next to Sanji are not as calm as he appears. Big, everyone, don't worry. Vivi smiled. To stop the others, Luffy made an appointment to meet us in Albana. Hey, looking at Vivi, who was sweating and couldn't speak, the other people couldn't complain. You are the most nervous, right? Speaking of which, Roman. Sanji, who lit a cigarette again, looked at Roman, who was lying beside him, and asked casually. Do you think Luffy can win? Be quiet. Although everyone knows that the sand crocodile is very powerful, but in fact, only Roman is the only one who has really played against him. So, Luffy is strong in melee, better than me. Roman, who was observing the battlefield through the reconnaissance paper crane, closed his eyes. Luffy's talent is really terrifying. Facing the sand crocodile, the desert treasure sword, which can stretch out hundreds of meters with one knife, and the desert sunflower, which can bury an army in an instant, have all fought back and forth. Relying on the observation hockey he just learned, he actually managed to dodge the whole way, which was ashamed of Roman, a transmigrator. But Luffy can't win. If it weren't for Roman's serious injury, both Sanji and Zoro could hardly hold back their anger and want their old fists to face each other. However, at this time, boom boom, a sandstorm tornado rolled up in the distance. With the rolling thunder and the mournful cry of Chinchin-Yexi, he roared into the sky. Tear the sky, tear the earth, tear everything. Hey, are you kidding me? He didn't notice when the cigarette in his mouth fell, and Sanji stared at the tawny tornado sandstorm in the distance. Like a giant dragon with claws despising everything, in the face of such natural power, his proud kicking skills. Giggle. Zoro, who gritted his teeth, also held the katana in his hand, shaking his path for the first time. Can such a natural disaster be cut through with a knife alone? Do not. Certainly possible. The knife that cuts through everything, the knife that cuts through the wind, must exist. Luffy. 2 lines of tears fell down Vivi's cheeks, no matter how willing she was to believe in Luffy, but in the face of such a terrifying natural disaster. Chopper, stop. Hearing Roman's words lying on the moving crab, the giant crab carapace under them, Chopper hurriedly looked around, only to find that everyone was immersed in his own world, and knocked on the moving crab and it communicated, and it stopped slowly. Chopper is able to communicate across species and most animals. Roman, you. Don't get me wrong, Roman, who was lying dead, waved his hand. Crocodile has left, which means, we don't have to run. We also, want, sent, Vivi. Zoro, who was basically speaking word by word, clenched his teeth tightly, and his muscles were so stretched out. Luffy isn't dead yet. What? Really? You make it clear. In one sentence, everyone in the Straw Hat group, who was happy and sad, rushed over subconsciously, instantly causing Roman in the crowd to cry out in pain. My wound. If you want me to die, just say so. Bang. X4. Smashing a group of people to the ground, including Vivi, Nami breathed a sigh of relief, and asked Chopper to examine Roman's wound before asking. Roman, what do you mean Luffy didn't die? It can only be said that the sandstorm tornado interfered with Luffy's mind, which greatly reduced his observation haki, and then used the higher level observation haki to crush Luffy's crocodile with a single move. In one breath, Luffy threw it into quicksand and waited to die, then turned and left. And not long after, Robin rescued Luffy with an injured Birdman, which made Roman feel different from others. Have a look. He was rescued after lying dead for a day. When Luffy turned his head, there were noble people to help, and even transportation was included. Falcon Bell, thank you, I was offended. Anyway, just wait a moment. Soon, a giant eagle with Luffy on his back, a half-human half-eagle, appeared in everyone's eyes. In front of him was Roman's paper crane guiding the direction, and the two successfully joined the Straw Hats. Princess Vivi. Bell. Dropping Luffy's eagle into a warrior dressed in white desert service, he knelt down to Vivi on one knee. What this paper crane said is true. Princess, you are really safe and sound. It's really good. Bell of the Falcon, adjutant of the Alabasta Kingdom Guard, Zone, Bird Fruit, Falcon type, ability. He is a die-hard supporter of Vivi, and it can even be said that he is a relative. Here is the master and servant meeting, and the other side. Doctor, hurry up and call the doctor. Ah, I'm the doctor. In a hurry, Luffy, whose chest was pierced, enjoyed the same treatment as Roman, lying on the moving crab and lying dead. But anyway, at least no one dies is the greatest luck. R.O. Roman. The vital point in his chest was obviously pierced, but the rubber constitution given by the rubber fruit gave Luffy's internal organs the toughness of rubber, so he could turn his head to look at the brothers and sisters beside him. I want to apologize to you, that sand crocodile is so powerful. I didn't even give him a single scar. I've never listened to you, sorry. As soon as these words came out, everyone who was overjoyed just now fell silent. Two members of his own team, Admiral, challenged Crocodile one after another. As a result, one has a hole in his stomach and the other has a skylight in his chest. Even if he can barely get rid of each other now, what will happen in the future? Roman, I'm going to beat up that bastard alligator. While Chopper kept saying, don't talk, Luffy looked at Roman next to him seriously. Give me a way so I can beat him up. Luffy, you're too self-willed. I'm lying here myself. I don't care, I must beat the flying crocodile. You must think of this method. Hey, what do you think I am? Almighty Tinkerbell, X5. You. Is this a spit on me, so I have nothing to spit? Facing the expectant expressions around him, Roman covered his face with one hand, but the corners of his mouth became more and more uncontrollable. Ha 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 ha. Mr. Roman, you're crying. Just be honest with you. No, it's just the sand blowing in my eyes. However, sitting up slowly, let Nami next to him quickly help Roman, who was supporting him, opening the corners of his mouth, confident Isho. Okay, I'll find a way for Luffy. A way for him to beat up the Fisha crocodile. Bet on my name as a traveler, no, bet on the name of a partner. Just wait, crocodile. Chapter 76 Assignments build the stage. Meat. Water. Resurrection. Are you still human? Looking at Luffy, who was full of energy after eating and drinking, even the skylight on his chest in perception had basically healed, and Roman, who was sitting in the spider wheelchair, was stunned, and even the porridge made by Nami in his hand was not fragrant. What kind of rubber fruit is that? It's clearly a regenerated fruit. Roman, why are you staring at me? Luffy was stunned for a moment, and then handed over the meat in his hand with a tangled face. I'll give you half of my meat. Wow, this is comparable to Zoro lending a knife to someone else. But, thank you, my broken intestines have just been sewn up for less than half an hour, I really can't enjoy it. Ha ha ha, no matter what the injury is, as long as you eat meat, you can recover. Meat? No way, no way. It seems that Luffy was really trained by his grandfather Garp to have a return of life eating version, otherwise there is really no way to explain all this. But that's fine, only when Luffy recovers can he hold the crocodile. What's the most important thing in boosting? Of course, it is the main T, and without a strong tank, everything is free to talk. What? Mage firepower to kill? Bullshit, you can kill by force. Are you the boss or the boss on the other side? Wow, we're flying. It's the first time I've been on this type of transportation called an airplane. If this kind of thing spreads, wouldn't ships be? How is it possible? This is Roman's fruit creation. No, quite the opposite. I am imitating technological creations with fruits. The reason why everyone is so leisurely now is of course because a huge white, strange bird roared past from the sky, and a flock of vultures were frightened and fled away. Paper Dance, Boeing 747. Of course, it's just a pirated copy of the poor people. The essence is still a paper airplane. However, even the paper plane was countless times faster than climbing on the ground, and it would have taken more than half a day to reach Albana from the rain. But now that more than half of the journey has passed in just 10 minutes, everyone can finally breathe a sigh of relief. The essence of war is to bully the weak. Roman seriously began to explain the battle plan to everyone. If you are on the weak side, you must make use of the timing, location, people and other factors to strengthen your side, weaken the enemy, and in some areas form a big advantage by gradually accumulating small advantages. Quote. Wisdom's blank eyes, X6. I'm so stupid, really. I actually tried to explain the tactics to them to analyze the situation. Well, the current situation is. With a wave of Roman's hand, the slamming white paper formed an undulating, sand table. Above are the cities, mountains, dunes and two armies composed of convex and concave white paper. I have good news and bad news, do you want to hear that? A circle of people with question marks on their faces, but. Listen to the bad news first. Luffy, clapper has recovered. Not long ago, the king of Alabasta, Neferutali Cobra, attacked the rapeseed flower market, first confessing to using dancing powder to create a drought, then killing and setting fire to it. Impossible, my dad would never. You are slandering the king. Alabasta Kingdom Guard, the white-robed desert warrior Bel subconsciously placed the palm of his hand on the long sword around his waist. If it weren't for the fact that the other party was Princess Vivi's friend, he would have drawn his sword to face each other. What about the good news? Luffy reached out his hand calmly and stopped the excited Vivi and Bel. The good news is, Roman pointed to a high ground next to Albana, the capital of Alabasta. King Cobra is not in danger for the time being. What do you mean? The smart Vivi was the first to react. Someone kidnapped my dad and then pretended to be him to attack the rapeseed flower market. Exactly, Roman snapped his fingers, and a portrait quickly appeared on the floating white paper. A man with a furry headgear, eyeshadow, lipstick or a ladyboy. Mr. Von Clay. That's right, Roman spread his hands. He is an imitator who ate the imitation fruit, and can transform into anyone with the same appearance and even the same voice. He has always used the power of the fruit to sow discord, and this attack on the rapeseed flower market completely ignited the anger of the rebels. Quote. With a wave of Roman's hand, in the sand table in front of him, the army of Catalya City, located next to the rapeseed flower market, gathered. The little paper figurines representing the resistance army were ready to go, and even the anger and killing intent on their faces were vivid. The 700,000 rebels have assembled and are heading north to Albana. Taking a deep breath, Vivi was stunned. What is the concept of 700,000? A real crowd of people. And Albana's defenders are less than 100,000, not to mention. Why do you want to kill each other? Obviously everyone is a child of Alabasta. So we're going to beat up that bastard Fisha crocodile. Luffy patted Vivi on the shoulder. It's all about him behind the scenes, whether it's drought or civil unrest. Luffy is right, but until then. As Roman clicks the dot to represent the city of Albana, the capital city, the model of the city grows rapidly. The house buildings, the four walls and the long ladders are all lifelike. See here. Roman pointed to the place where he had to pass to enter the city. Several little paper figures stand there. Dressed in completely different clothes and soldiers, it looks like a cadre style. He is tall, muscular, and dressed in a monk-style attire. There are snake patterns on both sides of the chest of the clothes, and the shaking bad value tomb food spinning fierce seal is tattooed on the chest. Mr. 1, a senior cadre with a bounty of 75 million Baileys in the Baroque Works room, a fruit-cutting ability, a knife-blade man who can turn his entire body into a sharp weapon. By the way, although he himself does not admit that he is a swordsman, he is indeed a master who can cut out sword chi. 75 million Bailey. Since Roman introduced him first, it means that this is a strongman second only to Crocodile. So, leave him to me. Zoro, who had a warlike expression on his face, held the 3 katana swords around his waist, and Roman glanced at him and added deliberately. Because of the fruit's ability, Mr. 1 is equivalent to the whole body of steel. No, the hardness is more than ordinary steel, and it has reached the level of fast knife. For Zoro, who has no mastery of steel cutting. No, I'm going to decide on this opponent. Roman's words made the veins on the back of Zoro's hand jump, this feeling of being despised. Yes. Roman nodded without hesitation. Sending a general is not as good as urging a general, which can be regarded as a little pressure on Zoro. Then next. Mr. Von Cray, you all know this person. But what you don't know is, Roman looked around for a week. He is a person who has a bounty of 32 million Bailey, and because the fruit ability does not help the battle at all, he also, that is to say, he has a bounty of more than 30 million simply by kicking. Kicking skills. Sanji took off the cigarette in his mouth and looked seriously at the shemale who was said to have mingled with Luffy and others on the road. He just gave it to me, and it just so happened that I didn't have a face-to-face with him. The job of rescuing the king will be handed over to Mr. Bell. Roman looked at the white desert warrior next to him. The other party had the look on his face that he wanted to rush out immediately after hearing that his king had been captured. Of course, I'll let Usopp help you. Hey, I. Ha ha ha, I am a brave sea fighter, of course I must be able to. The tearful Usopp held on. Next is Miss Fingers, Thorn Fruit ability. There is also a huge bomb prepared by Crocodile on the clock tower in the city center. Roman didn't bother to explain his source of intelligence. Anyway, Luffy and others would not care about this issue. Whoever takes care of your opponent first will go and dispose of that bomb by the way. Although there are 2 Cadre's guards with the codenames Mr. 7 and Miss Father's Day, but those 2 rookies the things that were killed by Vivi alone, the Straw Hats can do it alone. Usopp. As each opponent was assigned, Nami, who had not yet worked, pointed to herself. What about me? You have more important things that are related to the life and death of all of us. Roman looked at Luffy after saying that. As for Luffy, you just eat meat to save up your strength and wait until you beat Crocodile. Okay, I'll listen to you. Vivi at the end, Roman looked at the Princess of Alabasta. You and I will stop the rebels. That's the furious 700,000 armed men. Are you afraid? Don't be afraid. Great, Crocodile. The stage has been set up, just waiting for your arrival. Chapter 77 Group Confrontation. Stop the rebels. Next, witness the moment of miracles. The giant passenger plane, Boeing 747 feet that was fast approaching Albana suddenly began to split in the air, turning into small white gliders and gliding towards the capital of Alabasta, letting the cadres in the Baroque Works room standing or sitting below look at each other. This. Although all of them are capable, but they are all barbarians crawling on the ground. Faced with this, Mr. 4, take them down. The fat and bloated Mr. 4 heard the words and picked up the rocket launcher behind him and fired one shot. Baseball. Boom. Although this cannonball looks funny, its power is by no means ambiguous. However, the gliders in the air have spread out lightly in all directions, allowing the explosion to fall in the air. Faced with this situation, what to do? Those things are carrying 2 people. It's easy, we're in 2s. Mr. Point 1, who had the image of a strong bald man, stood up and patted his pants calmly. Go after it, kill the people above, and that's it. It's really simple thinking and work. His partner, a miss with a blue afro head, smoked the lady's cigarette calmly with both fingers. Has our work been difficult so far? After speaking, Mr. 1 took the lead in walking towards the immediate direction of a glider. The sharp aura above is his goal. Come on, Mr. 4, let's hurry up and get the job done. Oh. The quick-tempered Miss Christmas urged the slow Mr. 4 to leave. Then let me kill the other 2 by myself. This is a swan suit, spinning and jumping Mr. Von Cree. As several gliders in the air staggered past, various opponents have been allocated. Wow, it's really crowded. On the other side, on the pure white, J-20 feet speeding southward away from the capital, Roman looked at the sea of people rolling in from a distance and touched his chin with interest. Thinking about it, there were thousands of people doing radio gymnastics in the school in my previous life, and it felt like a crowd of people. And now below the fighter plane, is the angry army of 700,000. One person and 1 foot can make rivers stop flowing and mountains move. Get ready, Vivi. Looking back at the blue-haired princess on the co-pilot, Roman reminded the other party. This is a speech in front of 700,000 people, so don't be frightened. Don't worry, Roman first Roman. It is my duty to stop this tragedy. Rumbling. There are many swords and guns, flags are covered in clouds, horses' hooves are like thunder, and the murderous aura is sky high. The army that can't see the edge to the left and right rushed towards this Albana, vowing to smash this place that took everyone's life, reign, and trust to the ground. Although anger had filled their chests, the strange, big bird, in the sky still attracted the attention of many people. What's that? Could it be the lackey of the king's army, the adjutant of the kingdom guard with the name of Falcon Bell? The leaders who rushed to the front frowned, even if the Bell of the Falcon had the title of the king's strongest warrior, but in the face of hundreds of thousands of them, really one person can trample him into a single kick. Meat puree. No, that doesn't look like a falcon. The rebel leader narrowed his eyes. He has short dark tea-green hair, a scar above his left eye, a long red-brown windbreaker, a dark green belt, orange gloves, and a super long sword on his back. The rebel leader named Kosha gestured to the others. Be careful, it may be a new weapon of the king's army. Boom boom boom. Just as Kosha's words fell, the white giant bird suddenly spit out white bombs from above. The explosion roared, the yellow sand fluttered, and huge deep pits appeared on the ground immediately. But to the rebel army, unscathed. Yes, the bomb dropped by the giant white bird had no intention of attacking the rebel army, but blasted a long crater in front of them. Although there is no harm, the shocking meaning is self-evident. All troops slow down. Although the number of the rebel army is huge, most of them still use the 11-way transport, so although it caused waves of confusion, the army is still slowly stopping. After creating a crater and successfully stopping the speed of the rebel army, this strange white, giant bird, slowly fell, and then disassembled and reorganized with a clattering sound, turning into a boxy platform to stop the rebellion. In front of the army, above are Vivi. The leader of the rebel army, Kosha, was taken aback. Speaking of which, he and Vivi were childhood friends. When they played fighting games when they were children, Kosha was the leader of the children's group, Sand group, and Vivi was the deputy leader. By the way, several of the friends who used to be in the Sand Corps are now the leaders of the rebel army. Vivi, what are you doing now? Kosha rode his horse forward, looking at his childhood playmate with a very complicated look. If there was no drought for the past 3 years, how could there not be everything now? Maybe he and the girl opposite him are still friends, not like now. See you in battle. Everyone, and the head of the group. Facing thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of eyes filled with anger and murderous intent, Vivi opened his arms to block the rolling army. Listen to me everyone, we've all been lied to. This war was planned by someone else. Daughter of the scum king. Don't try to deceive us with lies. Go to hell. However, as soon as Vivi spoke, there were sparse curses from the rebel army. Humans are a kind of swarm creatures. With these scoldings, here are all the Avengers who were forced to die by the drought caused by the king, and the frenzied emotions began to spread in the army. Quiet. Listen to Vivi. As the leader of the rebel army, even though Kosha was extremely disappointed with the king, at least he still trusted Vivi, who had played with him since childhood. Just as he waved to calm the soldiers behind him. Boom. A gunshot interrupted his movement, and a bullet flew out from the chaotic army behind him, hitting Vivi's head at a high speed of hundreds of meters per second. It is clear that he is ready to kill. Bastard. Faced with the death that was so close at hand, Vivi, who was completely unprepared, had no time to dodge, and could only let the bullets rapidly expand in his pupils. And the captain of the Baroque Works room, who was hiding in the rebel army, had a happy look in the eyes. Got it. Brush. Ding. A palm stretched out from the side, blocking Vivi's face. After the high-speed rotating bullet rolled, rubbed, and consumed all the kinetic energy in the palm of the palm, it landed weakly on the white high platform. Clang. Let me explain. Roman, who took the bullet, looked at a figure in the rebel army who was shrinking back, and reached out and grabbed it out of thin air. Before that, get out of here first. Brush. A figure flew out of the rebel army, and a white palm caught his neck, making him speechless. But the musket that was still smoking gunpowder hanging from his waist clearly showed that he was the killer who launched the attack just now. Don't be in such a hurry, Baroque Works. Roman waved his hand and let the poor guy be moved to the other side by the paper hands, out of thin air, and took a step forward in the face of the densely packed rebel army. As the so-called empty words without evidence, seeing is believing. Even if Vivi tells you that all of you have been deceived, you will only believe your own eyes, right? Without waiting for an answer, Roman reached out to cover his face. But what I'm saying is, to deceive your eyes. Pulling the palm down, instantly made this desert a roar like a tsunami of mountains and tsunamis. It's impossible. What? The Scum King. Neferutali Cobra. As Roman wiped his face, his clothes changed rapidly at the same time, a dark windbreaker, a green bathrobe, a belt around his waist, and the most striking thing was his face, a black wavy hair, beards, and serious middle-aged expressions. Neferutali Cobra. Why are you here? Facing Kosha, who was trembling all over, he had vaguely guessed the truth. King Cobra, or rather, Roman shrugged. It's too easy to deceive your eyes. This is my devil fruit ability, and I call this trick, paper dance, painted skin. Of course, I don't have time to play any games of pretending to be kings. But by chance, in an organization called Baroque Works, there happens to be a devil fruit person who also has the ability to imitate the appearance and voice of others. Roman's words made thousands of rebels sluggish. As long as people with a little basic judgment, it is not difficult to understand the cruel truth. All of them have been used. Now you see, the truth you see is only what others let you see. Your so-called righteous vengeance is nothing but a tool in the hands of others. Even you yourself. It's nothing but chess pieces. Silence. The tens of thousands of rebels who learned the truth in the front were directly turned into clay sculptures and wood sculptures, while the confused rebels at the back, after repeatedly questioning the people in front, also fell into a life of doubt one by one. Only. Snapped. The leader of the rebel army, a young man named Kosha, stepped forward, clenching his teeth and looking at Roman. Where's the chess player? Who is the chess player? Who is behind it all? Someone will tell you, but not me. Roman, who had completed the stun and show truth by force, stepped back and made way for Vivi Afterbirth. Your princess will tell you everything. Chapter 78. Start preparing, fight each other. But, how could this be? How could? Facing the rebel cadres who were remorseful, annoyed, unbelievable, dubious, and even just trying to break the pot, Roman calmly spread his hands. Accept the reality. If I want to, I can replicate what you've been through. Of course, the fake king you met at the rapeseed flower market wasn't me. Not to mention that as Vivi's friend, I have no reason to do such a thing, just say that at that time. With the touch of Roman's hand, the clothes on his abdomen spread out one after another, revealing the blood-stained bandage underneath. I just went and got into a fight with the man behind the scenes. It turned out to be Alabasta's Sand. Catching bullets with bare hands with Roman's severely injured body, it's still a little bit of a struggle. And such an obvious new injury is Roman's alibi. Anyway, the facts are in sight. Roman pointed to the guys who were tied up next to him. Thanks to the secrecy of the Baroque Works room, in order not to accidentally injure friendly troops, low-level personnel will tattoo the wings and skulls on their right arms. And now it has become their reminder. After a bit of confusion, hundreds of Baroque Works fighters were unearthed. Comparing the information you got from your interrogation with the information provided by Vivi, it's not difficult to deduce the truth. Unless you don't want to believe it yourself. We are just for this country, for everyone to survive. The leaders of the several rebels were full of remorse, and if the matter hadn't ended, they would have felt the urge to wipe their necks right away. Looking around, the hundreds of thousands of rebels who were still angry and fighting spirits before, are already standing in the same place at this time, with an autistic expression that life has no meaning. Don't be too busy being decadent, things are far from over. Although the million-scale war was successfully prevented, the mastermind behind the scenes still exists, and it is ready to take the stage immediately. Since everyone is for Alabasta, we have a common goal. And it's not a problem that so many people stay here. Roman began to explain to several people the plan. After that, the leaders of the resistance army also nodded in agreement. At this time, it is okay for them to commit suicide, not to mention the gathering of strength to overthrow the behind-the-scenes mastermind. Fairly smooth. The rebels did it, and the kings were the easiest. There is Bell, the adjutant of the Royal Army Guard, who knows the truth. It is estimated that the cleaning of the Royal Army has now been completed and the civilians in Albania are being evacuated. Next, as long as the other people's battles are over, they only need to face the crocodile who is coming and has become a loner. What did you say, Robin? Isn't this your own combat unit? But Roman touched his chin, as he once said, the key to this battle lies in crocodile alone. If you can't beat the sand crocodile, everything is nonsense. Hundreds of thousands of troops are very powerful, stronger than a giant sandstorm. If crocodile really let go of his hands and feet, how many ordinary soldiers are just giving away? In the face of the observation hockey who has a good observation hockey and armament hockey at the same time, the fruit ability develops to the awakening stage. Fighting technique is not a slag crocodile either. If you can't accumulate enough advantages, even Luffy, you can't expect to hang up on the spot, right? So, the plan must succeed. I didn't pour cold water on you. Fighting with both fists, Mr. One, who let out a cold metal collision, looked coldly at the three swordsmen in front of him. Since I got the cut fruit, no swordsman has been able to hurt me. Ah, I see. Zoro took off the hood from his arms and put it on his head. No matter how many swordsmen you have met before, I advise you to forget those battles. The reason why you didn't lose is just because you didn't meet me. Facing the confident Zoro, the bald man Mr. One just replied in different words. I don't know if your knife is fast, but your mouth is very sharp. Bang! As soon as he stepped up, Mr. One rushed towards Zoro with his bare hands. One leg bounced, followed by a violent downward split. Clang! With the piercing sound of the sword crashing, Mr. One Feet's entire leg turned into a massive giant blade. Firmly suppress Zoro's dual knives. A little skill, bald. See how long you can last. With 5 fingers, Mr. One Feet's fingers turned into 5 short blades and grabbed Zoro in the shape of tiger claws. Control slash. Tisk. Clang clang clang. The sparks splashed, the blades rubbed, and the battle between the swordsman and the swordman officially started. Kick. Woo. Bang. Sanji and Mr. Von Kree, who had kicked each other's face, flew backwards at the same time and fell to the ground. Then, it's really unpleasant. Sanji, who patted his pants and stood up, moved his hands and feet. Why did that guy in the green algae deal with the cadre with a bounty of 75 million Bailey, and I have to fight a shemale like you? Even if he wins, wouldn't he be crushed out of thin air by that nasty guy? Unless. HMPH, shameless. Mr. Von Kree also got up in a swan suit. He could feel the blonde curly eyebrows in the black suit in front of him were comparable to his own, but the slave family has been training day and night before finally mastering this shemale boxing technique. It is impossible for a small character like you to crack. Oh, then you can give it a try and see if I won't break your hands. In Ping Ping Pong Pong, it is a battle of fists and feet. Ah, sneeze. With a dog gun. In a sneeze from the gun dog spit out a round baseball and roared out. But Chopper, in the form of a reindeer, swiftly dodged the cannonball with flying hooves, while he glanced behind him. The baseball failed, but it didn't matter, because on the trajectory of the baseball's flight, Gao Shu and Mr. Four suddenly waved the 4-ton bat, which instantly changed the trajectory of the baseball and flew towards Chopper again at a supersonic high speed. Come. Boom. The baseball exploded like a powerful cannonball, but brush. Chopper on all fours broke through the smoke and leapt from the explosion. Too slow. This game of dodgeball is too easy compared to Mr. Roman's, Dodge the Puppets. Oh. The fat and honest Mr. 4 put down the club in his hand, took a sip from the water cup, and then, bang! Got a stick on the back of the head. What are you doing? Get rid of your opponent. You pig, pig. This is each other's partner, miss. Merry Christmas. It was a short, impatient old woman who was in sharp contrast to her partner. I am disgusted by the slow behavior of Mr. 4 Inches, but it is said that the two of them have an excellent tacit understanding during the battle. This old woman is a mole fruit person, that is, she kidnapped Vivi's father from the palace, which caused a series of misunderstandings. But as long as you know this information, it is not difficult for the two vice-captains of the Alabasta Kingdom to save their king. So, the other side has the two of them, plus an animal weapon. Can you win? Of course. Ah, help. Stop, you bastard. If other battlefields are considered to be painting normal, then Usopp's side is international practice. Usopp was shouting and crying in front of him, followed by Miss Fingers chasing in a frenzy. She is a thorn person who ate the thorn fruit, and her whole body can be turned into sharp thorns. Definitely a good hand in melee combat, but after Usopp saw the opponent's finger open the boulder, he made up his mind not to have any close contact with the opponent, and turned like the wind. Let Miss Fingers explode with anger. Although she has a blue afro. Damn, aren't you a sea boy? Go back and fight for my mother. Running so fast, Lu Xingya is reincarnated. And the last battlefield. Nami, how's it going? Nami, who sneaked into the pirate ship named Ba Kuro Gustav, and evaded a pair of patrolling armed men, frowned and answered the paper crane on her shoulder in a low voice. I haven't found it yet, but it should be nearby because I smelled brush. With a flash of sword light, the cabin behind her instantly turned into pieces of wood, and an arrogant voice came from inside. Look what I found, Mr. 10. Oh, what is it, Miss Tuesday? With another frivolous voice, a man with double guns and a woman with a long knife came out of the hole. Looks like we have jobs coming to our door. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Need support. Facing the question from Roman opposite Shihei, Nami, who was holding the ultimate art of a thief, shook her head. No. Be careful. Crocodile should react quickly. It's all up to you, Nami. Chapter 79 Realm of Slashing Iron Predict Future. Brush, brush, brush. 50 knives of the sharp knife, snow walking, which are as cold as snow, the dark and unknown demon knives, 3 generations of ghosts. From the new group. The 3 treasured swords flew up and down, and the slashes of the swords slashed continuously, like a dazzling blazing electricity, faintly blocking all the opponent's dodging space between the vertical and horizontal opening and closing. The hurricane brought by the knife wind condensed into a steel-like fierce momentum and pressure, and pressed hard on the opponent. Even the battlefield was cut out of thin air by this terrifying momentum. Smooth sword marks. The swordsmanship performed by Zoro, who was under 20 years old, whether it was killing intent or power skills, brought into full play the swordsmanship of Yishinryu, and even integrated it into his own 3-knife style. As expected of the Shimotsuki village Isshin dojo, it can even be said that the entire East Blue is recognized as a genius swordsman. But clang, 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 clang. In the dense sound of hammering iron, opposite the violent swordsmanship is the calm bald man Mr. 1 on the opposite side. Facing Zoro's lingering offensive, he remained unshakable, and his fists and feet carried a tempered simplicity. All of Zoro's attacks were abruptly taken down. If Zoro's attack is a storm, a stormy sea, that Mr. 1 is the mainstay, the towering cliffs. No matter how Zoro chops and cuts, he will be happy. Snapped. After another violent fight, Zoro, who retreated, bit the word Hidai in his mouth, and his knives stood up like horns. After accumulating power, he suddenly attacked again, and the whole person ran rampant like a ferocious ghost. Ghost slash. Clang. Mr. Point One dressed as a bald monk was cut to the ground by a huge force. Zoro, who had crossed the other side, turned around suddenly, the two knives in his hand and the word Hidao crossed into sharp claws. Tiger hunt. Boom. The tall Mr. One was slashed into the yellow sand in an instant, blasting the ground out of a deep hole the size of a house, and Zoro, who stepped back, let out a displeased sound. Tisk, is this all right? Snapped. Standing up from the bunker, Mr. One calmly patted his clothes. Zoro's outfit even came down, not even the corners of his clothes were torn. Don't waste your strength. My fruit ability makes my skin as tough as a famous sword, and even my internal organs are like steel and iron. Katakana middle dot. After being exhausted by Roman's defensive, paper dance, iron armor, Zoro has already thought about how to deal with such a high defense opponent, causing shock waves to destroy from the inside by slashing as a method he came up with, but now it seems it didn't work the first time I used it. It's so hard to deal with. Devil fruit is really a foul. Of course, because Mr. Point One returned Zoro's words to him before the battle. You didn't touch me. Being slapped in the face on the spot, the veins on Zoro's head jumped and jumped. But since you've cut enough. Mr. Point One charged towards Zoro, his hands folded into palms. The 10 fingers turned into sharp knives, pushing towards Zoro head-on like the same trick, turtle school qigong. It's my turn to attack. Foam daisy cut. Clang. The 2 knives crossed in front of him, and Zoro, who was forcibly pushed by the opponent's huge force and hit the rock behind him, just let out a sigh, and the whole person was suddenly stunned. Because behind him, there are 10 huge radioactive knife marks on the rock of the cliff, corresponding to the 10 fingers of Mr. One. This guy. To actually be able to emit such a stern sword energy. Fly. With Mr. Point One feet's indifferent voice, Zoro's chest exploded with 10 radioactive knife marks out of thin air. It has long been cut by the invisible sword energy of the opponent. Bang! During the second burst of sword chi, Zoro flew backwards, and the huge rock behind him collapsed at the same time, pressing him down abruptly. I train harder than anyone else, and I have saved myself from danger several times. Zoro, who was crushed under the rock, asked himself that he was by no means lazy. What is there to be deficient in? Is it the armament hockey? Roman said. Believe in yourself, believe in your own knife, you can cut everything. I guess Roman doesn't believe it himself. Or is it the sword that cuts through paper, as the teacher calls it? But what does it mean to even cut paper? I only know that going forward is the road to the swordsman. Wow! Zoro, who stood up from the ruins, gritted his teeth. What puts the soul into fists and knives? What protects all the paper and keeps cutting? Boom! A huge rock the size of a house was lifted by Zoro, and then slammed into Mr. One on the head. Faced with an attack that was enough to smash flesh and blood into flesh, the bald monk's Mr. One just calmly spread his fingers into knives. Whatever it is, I will chop it to shreds. Mote slash. In an instant, the dense sword chi cut through the falling boulder, and neatly divided it into hundreds of thousands of pieces. And behind these stones. Cut. Zoro's hand slashed down suddenly. If he couldn't cut the gold and iron by himself, it would only mean that he didn't work hard enough. It can only show that his strength is not enough. Then. Stronger. Faster. More fierce. For a while, the sword's stance resurfaced, and Zoro's killing intent was several times stronger than before. The body of the three-handed sword extended a layer of black and foggy sword light, and the suffocating fierceness spread out, filling the battlefield. Let those insects and animals lurking in the sand and soil be stiff in an instant, and die silently under Zoro's murderous aura. Crab sting. In the battlefield beside the cliff, with the shattering screams of the blade breaking through the air, the three-handed swords crossed horizontally slashed towards Mr. Point One feet's neck. The whole posture was like a crab trying to grab its prey. As Zoro yanked the knife he was holding with brute force, a phantom of a crab claw appeared behind him. I even saw Sen Leng's iron pliers suddenly cut with the sharp knife light. The murderous aura was flying, and the rich bloody aura was suffocating. Woo! Mr. Point One, who was slashed to the neck by Zoro, experienced pain after a long absence. It was as if the skin he was proud of would be torn apart in the next second, so he had to deal with it immediately. It's too much to dream of a long night, and a quick decision is made. Spiral cut. The two sturdy arms suddenly turned into circles of knives and spun at a high speed, bouncing the knives in Zoro's hands upwards, and then puff puff puff. The high-speed rotating blade instantly scraped through Zoro's chest, dyeing his chest blood red. Not over yet. Spiral punch. The high-speed rotating blade punch slammed into Zoro's chest, and even Zoro's inhuman constitution was instantly beaten. His eyes turned white, and the long knife let go. The whole person flew backwards, slammed into the rock wall of the cliff and fell to the ground. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Zoro, whose consciousness was already cloudy, got up with one breath, but what greeted him was destroy the crack. The sharp sword energy cuts vertically and horizontally. While slashing Zoro's entire chest to shreds, it also shattered the cliff behind him. Countless boulders have collapsed. In the rumbling sound, Mr. One turned and left. And suddenly turning around, Mr. One in the shape of a bald monk looked at the man standing in the megalithic ruins in disbelief. Ah, I am so unhappy. He clearly said that he wanted to become the world's #1 swordsman, but he faced all kinds of abilities he encountered along the way. The knife in his hand shrunk again and again. It seems that Roman is deliberately provoking himself to deal with this guy with a full-body blade. Because whether it is Luffy or Roman, their fruit ability will be restrained by this blade man, right? If I fail, who will deal with him? Usopp, Nami, Chopper. So I can't fall yet. Only I can. Why are you still standing? It was cut like that by me and you can avoid the boulder. Facing the unbelievable Mr. One, Zoro didn't even have the strength to answer, but he knew very well. Dodge no, I just feel the place where the boulders can't hit. When he was dying, the whole world seemed to be different in Zoro's eyes. The sky, the earth, the rocks and that bastard blader on the other side. Everything exudes a unique breath, and in Zoro's eyes, it's all so clear, just follow the rhythm of the breath. Is this the observation hockey Roman talks about all day long? It seems to be a little different, that's all. Picking up the words written under the rock, Zoro put the samurai sword back into its sheath, and made a dignified drawing posture. Do you still want to fight? This time I'll cut you into pieces. Facing Mr. One rushing like a sword with 10 fingers, Zoro just unhurriedly drew out his samurai sword. As soon as the knife was unsheathed, the speed immediately changed from extremely slow to extremely fast. The knife seemed to cross the boundaries of time and space and disappeared in a hurry. When it reappeared, Zoro was already standing behind Mr. Sheath. One knife Yihei Lion Elegy. Puff. Mr. Point One, who claimed to have never been hurt by a swordsman, spat out a mouthful of blood and turned around with an ugly face. He didn't even know when he was beheaded. How did this guy's strength increase so much in an instant? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. The next step katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Are you going to cut open the diamond? Facing Mr. Point One Feet's question, Zoro just answered calmly. That's too much of a waste. It's not that it can't, it's just too bad. I got you. Bang. The #1 master in the Baroque works room named Mr. One, the crocodile as the boss, fell to the ground. Bang. And Zoro, who slashed iron with a knife, also fell down. On a white stretcher. It's amazing. Before falling into a coma, a familiar voice rang in Zoro's ear. As expected of the world's #1 swordsman in the future. Of course. P.S. The aftermath of the long comics is that the combat power is a bit erratic. At this time, Zoro has been able to cut open the Mr. One of the big knife with his bare hands. I even experienced the ability of prediction a few versions in advance, and the result was Eni's lobby. Hey, I'm going to have a headache. Chapter 80 Crocodile Attack Shemale Friendship. What? In the desert a few hours from Albana, a roar came from the carriage of the giant tortoise, Pink, which was transported by land and water. You say it again. Crocodile, who was wearing a black fur coat, stood up suddenly, completely lost the demeanor of Georgiou in the past, and asked the phone bug in his hand coldly. Yes, yes. On the other end of the phone bug was a squad leader who escaped by chance. As a Baroque Works spy lurking in the king's army, he was lucky to escape the purge and contacted the senior cadres outside the city. However, the result is, not only the cadres encountered the enemy, but even most of the rebels. As grassroots leaders, squadron leaders already have the right to choose their own clothing, and do not need to tattoo the logo of the Baroque Works room on their bodies, so let them temporarily escape. But, with the arrest of a large number of low-level personnel, these grassroots commanders will be identified sooner or later. Then what awaits them is thousands of cuts and Ling Chi's dismemberment are not enough to vent their anger. Thanks to the good work done by their Baroque Works room, the number of people who died in Alabasta due to the drought and civil war is not hundreds, but tens of millions. It's not too little for everyone to be shot repeatedly for a few minutes. Excuse miss, are you here all Sunday? We should. Click. Hanging up the phone bug, Crocodile didn't bother to pay attention to the life and death of the poor bug who was tipping off. The whole person became gloomy, and his dangerous eyes fell on Nicole Robin next to him. Although I understand how you feel, boss. Faced with Ling Ran's killing intent, Nico Robin easily spread her hands. But I still want to say it's not what I did. I know. Crocodile took a deep breath of the cigar and forced himself to calm down. Although he can't see through Nico Robin in front of him, his observation hockey clearly senses Nico Robin's extreme desire for the goal of the two. At this critical moment, there is no need for her to play this self-destructive means. What's more, this woman is sitting beside him now, and with Crocodile's strength, she can kill her with a hand. If she really was behind the scenes, there was no reason to hide from Crocodile's perception. But it doesn't make sense. Only he and the woman next to him knew the details of the whole plan, and the other Baroque Works cadres were just following orders. Even if they leaked the information, the current situation should not appear. It's like there are invisible eyes watching everything we do. The calmed Crocodile took a deep breath and looked in the direction of Albana. Someone saw all my plans and destroyed them at the most critical moment. But the intelligence network that can stop everything in an instant before they can act, could it be them? World Government Spy Agency CP. Do you want to retreat, boss? Robin, who was wearing a white trench coat next to him, could see Crocodile's hesitation. If even this person backed away, then she could only watch the historical text from in front of her. Are you unwilling to? Nicole Robin. Crocodile sneered, and now that no matter what force is undermining, he has no choice but to shoot, then. It seems that I have been a hero in this country for too long, so long that people have forgotten my job. Pirates. Unscrupulous pirates. Come on, let's go and see who's up to it. Now that the plan has been completely ruined, and the peaceful capture of Alabasta has become a bubble, then Crocodile doesn't mind fighting it. Taking the whole of Albana as a hostage, the Nefertiti royal family who would like to come to kindness will know how to choose. With a wave of the windbreaker, Crocodile wrapped Nico Robin next to him, and his lower body turned into a whirling tornado and galloped away into the distance. Since the strategy fails, then use force to break the situation. Kill. On the other side of the battlefield. Ha ha ha. Sanji was stomped on by the laughing Vivi and looked like he was at a disadvantage. It's just a mouthful, can't you stand up? A third-rate chef, with a Vivi face, Mr. Tuvankray in a swan suit and a pink trench coat laughed. It's still pretty. Don't think I'm going to get beat up. No matter how much Vivi you become, you're still just a she-male at heart. Sanji, angry. Don't be proud of me. Forgot your shape. Sanji has fallen. Is this guy an idiot? Gorgeous swan dance. No matter what, kill the opponent first. Faced with a flying kick, Sanji finally became vigilant in his posture. Mr. Tuvankray had already figured out the details of the opponent. It says, gentlemen, and reads old snakeskin. Hey, the weather in this country is really hot. In the face of the old snakeskin, Mr. Tuvankray came to the rescue. It makes you want to take off your clothes. As he spoke, he opened his collar, revealing. Do you want me to help? Face to face with the red-faced Sanji, Mr. Tuvankray had neither sadness nor joy on his face. That's it. I knew it was so easy to deal with and instantly, turned my face. The she-male knife cuts the fist. The hand knife that attacked at close range slashed Sanji's neck fiercely, almost knocking out the chef in the blonde suit. This is followed by toe kick. Although the name is ridiculous, the kicking power of Mr. Tuvankray's hard training with both strength and speed is by no means ambiguous. Even a cement column that is hugged by an adult will be kicked off by him. Poor Sanji flew to the side in an instant, and rolled around a dozen times before stopping. Ha ha ha, it's too easy, too easy. Unforgivable, you tempted me with Miss Vivi's appearance. Sanji, who turned over and climbed up, stepped down and kicked out, his legs staggered. Instantly attacked Mr. Tuvankray, who showed his true face. However, the other party just calmly touched his face with his right hand. You won't kick me, will you? Facing Vivi's pitiful face, Sanji instinctively twisted his waist in midair, and let his attack change the trajectory. But she-male hand knife. Sanji, who was hit again, flew out backwards, and a mouthful of blood was sprinkled with yellow sand. The paper cranes hovering in the air beside him almost fell down. What plane are you doing? This is a battle of life and death, and the other party is a shapeshifter. You can't even do it. You tell me this is the spirit of a gentleman. Obviously it's the spirit of the old snake skin. On the other side, sitting in a spider wheelchair, Roman, who led Vivi and the rebel leaders back to Albana, covered his forehead and waved his hand in the face of Vivi's worries. Do you want to tell Vivi by yourself that a demon is beating Sanji in her face? Forget it, the Straw Hats can't afford to lose this person. But I've seen through your tricks. Sanji, who was hit hard again, stood up and calmly lit a cigarette. You can turn into Vivi so that I can't attack, but when you attack yourself, you will change back to the body of a she-male. So, when you transform, do you change your constitution at the same time? Does it make it unfit for combat? Facing Sanji's reasoning, Mr. Tuvankray's face froze. The other party is right, the reason why he frequently switches and deforms is because only his well-trained body can exert his fighting level. And once it transforms into someone else. So what? Even if you see through the flaws of my imitation fruit, you can't overcome. Boom. The figure flashed, and the black boots raised high were caught in the eyes of Mr. Tuvankray, making him quickly imitate his right face and instantly change into the appearance of Vivi. But what's on your left cheek? Huh. Subconsciously touched the left face, Mr. Tuvankray, who automatically changed back to his own appearance, froze. Bad. Shoulder tenderloin. Instantly exerting force, the roaring kick landed on Mr. Tuvankray's face, catching him by surprise, but it wasn't over yet. Loin. One leg swept across Mr. Tuvankray's waist, making him too late to change his image, but also aroused his competitive spirit. Slave house. It's not someone who only relies on the power of fruit. The rogue swan ball. All meat platter. Quote. The two legs ejected at a high speed more than a dozen times a second. Tit for tat, not giving in to each other. The shadows of the legs in the sky are either kicking straight through the air, or twisting and turning, or borrowing strength to cancel each other, or colliding with each other and resisting. Clap 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 clap. The two legs that were capable of kicking off rocks and smashing metal kept fighting each other, causing the air to roar abruptly. It exploded like thunder for a while, the ground cracked and shattered, and the yellow sand flew like scattered bullets. Until thou shoot. In the end, Sanji was superior, and he kicked the opponent more than 10 meters away with one kick. The power of the spiral penetration even made Mr. Tuvancray vomit his mouth in midair, and blood scatters into the sky. Quote katakana middle dot. Lying on the ground, Mr. Tuvancray, who did not even have the strength to turn over, exclaimed sincerely, and then, "Kill me. Skills are not as good as human beings, and they will be killed when they leave the neck." But a hand stretched out in front of him. Looking up, it was Sanji's handsome face. This fight was great, the rest needless to say. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Is this not knowing each other? This person is a friend. Mr. Tuvancray, who was moved to the point of tears, stretched out his hand, and then bang bang bang. After talking for a long time, you still want to beat me? Who made you look like Vivi? Sanji, who had beaten the opponent, turned around and waved. Go away.